This self-healing game plan, when I first created it a couple years ago, I honestly came at it with such like a fiery energy. And I love that fiery energy because whenever I think about manifestations, of course, there's balance between all elements, but I usually think about manifestations as fire. It's like you need some of that kindling, you need the heavy logs, you need that inner spark, you need that inner flame. And it's all about momentum as well. Once a fire really gets going, it gets going. And the same things happen with your manifestations. And so while we're here today, I really want you to feel the activation. This is not just a live training where I'm here and giving you a whole bunch of information and you don't really get anything out of it. This is going to be an active transformation where you're feeling completely activated in your own energy centers to inspire you to take the action that you need to take in order for those manifestations to come into fruition. So I'm going to start by recapping a little bit about my Chakra Codes Masterclass. It is a free masterclass that if you have not already been a part of that or seen that, it's available to all of you. And I want to make sure that you are engaging in that and you're watching that and taking notes and rewatching it and taking notes and rewatching it and taking notes, because that is a great base of information for you to have to first understand your energy and how your own energy then correlates to you receiving your manifestations. It's all a system. And so I want to touch on that briefly for those of you who have not seen that yet, so we can all have the same level of knowledge going into this self-healing game plan live stream together. So when we are talking about the energy centers, we're obviously talking about the crown, we're talking about the third eye, the throat, the heart space, the solar plexus, the sacral, and then the root. Those are the 7 that I typically touch on. There are hundreds of thousands of chakras and energy centers and energetic points where we both give and receive energy, but to keep it very simple and to maximize your level of understanding as quick as possible, we're only going to touch on those core 7. So when we are thinking of those energy centers and how we can receive information and then also give the same information or receive energy and give energy, we're thinking about 2 organic sources of energy. We're thinking about Father Sky, electric energy. We're thinking about the divine spiritual energy, universal energy, whatever it is that you call it. We're talking about that kind of energy, that source, creator, God, universe. And then we're also talking about the second organic source of energy that is absolutely limitless. Both of them are. And that would be the magnetic energy. So the energy from Mother Earth. And when we're able to understand that these are 2 organic sources that we can be getting energy from at any point in time, we start to feel a lot more powerful. And I want you by the end of this, not even before the end of this, to feel like you are your most powerful self. And if you have been feeling lately like you're living in fear, if you've been feeling lately like you are limited, if you've been feeling lately like your ego needs to kind of get a hold of itself, or you're looking to shift identities and you're not really feeling connected to yourself, you're kind of living in that autopilot where you're not really tapping into pure consciousness, you are literally disempowering yourself by staying there. Now, here's where we get into that victim mindset, which I do want to harp on a little bit more, and then we're going to get back into more of the energy centers. But I have to discuss this first because there are so many different types of limitations that we put on ourselves. And sometimes we don't recognize that we put those on ourselves. And so this is not the live stream or free training for you if you are in a victim mindset and you're going to stay there. Right? This is not for you. If you're like, okay, well, I'm feeling really down and out about myself, but I just came here to see what's going on and I might not really actually be activated enough to take in this information. I might not be activated enough to actually go forth and do exactly what I need to do to make something happen. This is not for you, because this is for those of you who are actually going to do what it takes energetically and physically. So give me one moment here while I go and add some people into this room. I have some people waiting here. I want to make sure that they can get in. Admit all. Beautiful. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Make sure that your microphones are off, but your cameras are on. I would love to see your faces. This is a time and place where we can be able to see each other and vibe and feed off of each other's energy. So right now we're talking about that victimhood mentality, that victimhood mindset. That is a core belief system and mindset and embodiment that we want to make sure that we are shifting out of. You cannot receive the kind of lifestyle that you are going for with holding on to that victim mentality and victim mindset. So hopefully before the end of this, you're going to have those steps to understand like, oh, I actually am in a victim mindset. And we're going to highlight some of that when we get into the hot seat coaching. And then what you can do to actually shift out of that. Because this is not where I'm just calling you like, you're a victim. Okay, fix it. Like, no, we're here to do this together. And so I want you to just be very, very present in this whole entire live stream and this whole entire training. I want you to also, again, relate it back to the energy centers. So we have this connection to universal wisdom. That is that creator energy. That is how we connect to our higher self. That is how we connect to ideas. That is how we connect to inspiration. And so when we have a clear channel of availability in our crown, of our third eye, of our throat, so on and so forth, all of that information will get sent down. So you'll often hear in the spiritual community, oh, I just received a download. I just received a code. I just got a moment of intuition. I just received this. It just dropped in, right? When you're brainstorming, what does a storm do? A storm rains down, right? And so we're receiving that kind of information. However, if we're having energetic blocks within our own being, it can be difficult to interpret that information. It could be difficult to feel like we're actually receiving that information. It could be difficult for us to take action on that information that we are receiving. So I want you to get into the headspace of, okay. Where am I feeling today? Like, how am I feeling? Where am I at? Where's my mentality? Do I feel super connected? Do I feel like I'm a victim right now? Is there something that's super triggering to me? Do I feel alive? Do I feel super connected? Do I feel so empowered right now that I just got to move? I just got to do something. That is the kind of energy that is going to move mountains for you. Okay. That is one little step that you can do to take to say, if I'm in a victim mindset, what can I do to feel a lot more activated? What can I do to shift my way out of that? Because whatever got me here is not going to get me to where I want to go. So when we have that beautiful source of organic energy that is trickling down into us and literally just beaming down to us 24/7, it never stops. It's always constant. It's always limitless. And we have that clear channel of energy. What we then start to do is not only receive it, but then we start to perceive it. Right. And that's the job of the third eye, is to perceive that intuition, to perceive that information. And we can perceive in the future, we can perceive in the past, and we can perceive in the present. Okay. And this is what is so important when we get to the part of rewriting your life story, because a lot of the times we are projecting and perceiving into our future and therefore manifesting evidence of the past. Boo. If we don't like our past, what's to look forward to in the future? More of the same. And so when we are getting to the point of rewriting your life story and really allowing yourself to have more clarity about how we are perceiving our past self, our past relationships, our past circumstances, our past financial status, whatever it is, our past relationships and family, whatever it is, whenever we're perceiving that in a negative connotation, I want you to remember that for as much time or as much energy that you just spent thinking negatively about your past, I want you to then start to think more positively about your past. Okay. Oh, well, what was pretty good in my past about my family relationships? What was pretty good in my past about my financial status? What was really, good about me, my personality, and my development? Okay. So that perception is super important. And I feel like nowadays in new age spirituality, and I'm a victim to it, because who am I? It's not that I was like born in year 800 and then I have all this ancient wisdom passed down to me and it's like, this is how it should be. No, it's not like that. I understand that we've all received watered down spiritual information, or we've all received that kind of information that's a little bit too new agey and it's not really rooted in practicality. So this is us taking what we've known and kind of stripping away all those distractions and stripping away all the fluff and stripping away all the generalized information that we're getting. So when we're able to truly, truly, truly take a look at ourselves in perceiving, it's not just closing our eyes and visualizing, right? Like that's like new age. That's what I'm talking about. Like close your eyes, visualize, dream it. Okay. And you're going to understand this more when we talk about literally step number 1, because it talks about the vision. And this is exactly why I'm harping on it so hard right now, because the vision is not like, okay, I want this, I want this, I want this. That's great. Okay, cool. Like that doesn't even that doesn't have any weight. That doesn't hold on to anything. You know what I'm saying? And so many of you, once we get to this point, are going to give me a vision where you're going to say this: My vision for my future self, or my vision for my life, my vision for the next couple weeks, is to not have anxiety, is to not have stress, is to not be sad anymore, is to not drink as much caffeine, is to not, is to not, is to not, is to not, is to not. Your vision is to not something. That's not a good enough vision. Your vision should be allowing you to feel the weight and gravity of what it is that you're truly wanting to live or experience or embody. So instead of you saying, well, my vision is to not experience anxiety, my vision is to be so completely at peace mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, that I can set my mind to something and with clear focus, intention, and action, it becomes mine. And I will always go through every step of the process, allowing myself to feel certain, allowing myself to feel secure, allowing myself to say, wow, I actually did that. I'm a woman of my word. I'm a person of my word. That holds a lot more gravity and weight and pull, and that can anchor you and give you more momentum than, I don't want anxiety. You know what I'm saying? So I'm being very playful about it now and saying it like this now because you would not believe how many times I've had to help people rewrite, and we're going to help you. Don't worry. There's going to be stuff that I'm still going to love and shove you through today, but you would not imagine how many people's manifestations is to not something. And you're already starting it off in a negative place. Okay. You're not painting that clear enough picture. That's not a clear enough picture. It's not good enough. I don't think it's good enough for you. So allow yourself to dream bigger, think bigger, have a vision that is a lot more massive than what you're currently giving yourself and your imagination credit for. So moving on down through the energy centers, we then have the throat. Once you receive that juicy information, once you're able to perceive it, not only for your present moment self, your future moment self, and your past version self, that's a little bit of time travel. We'll get to that later. But when you are able to then speak about it, now we are starting to cook in the kitchen. Things are getting warmer, things are getting hot, things are getting more preheated. The careful thing that I want you to be mindful of is when you are having your self-healing game plan, you're having this vision, you're having this manifestation, right? Because right now, what I'm doing for you is essentially dangling the carrot of your vision and manifestation in front of your face, but the vehicle that's going to take you there is the healing part of it. So I always want you to look at any single training that you're in with me as not only a place to manifest some cool stuff, but is to actually live the lifestyle that you were born to live, to be the person that you were born to be, not be held back by all these other things that should have just been released by now. Okay. The trauma, all of the behaviors, the moods, the funks, all those times where you're not believing yourself, those limiting beliefs, we're releasing all of that. And then the little carrot that's shining daily in your face is the manifestation. But it's not just about the manifestation itself, it's about the feeling behind it. Okay. It's the feeling behind it. So I kind of got sidetracked there. But when you're talking about your manifestations, I want you to be very, very mindful about the words that you're choosing, about how you're choosing to use said words, and who you're sharing that information with, because not everyone deserves to know all the information. Okay. Not everyone deserves to know all that information at all. And what happens when you communicate what your desires are, you actually get a dopamine hit. And that dopamine hit that you're getting from maybe even having the intention of co-creating with someone else, like let's say it's your best friend, they're always cheering you on and you have these big dreams and these big goals and you decide to sit on the phone and talk to them for 2 hours about it. And it doesn't mean that your friend is like not on the same vibe or can't help you co-create. However, your friend has, their own things that they're trying to do in their own life as well. And if you did not come into the conversation with, hey, let's be here, let's be present, let's be mindful, let's co-create our dreams together, then chances are they're going to hear you, listen to you, like, woo, act as a cheerleader, and then like go about their business. And then they still have those thoughts about you in their head. Okay. And if they're not consciously trying to be proactive in helping you co-create that, something could happen where it's like, oh, remember when that, my best friend pissed me off, or like, oh, like now maybe you and your best friend are not talking for a little bit. And then they know your ideas, they know your goals, and that could be a form of evil eye. And so I'm going with this very elaborate kind of hypothetical situation because you would not believe how many of us feel so good after talking to our friends, or I would say feel so good before talking to our friends, feel so good about our manifestations and our dreams before we talk to our partner, before we talk to our mom, before we talk to X, Y, and Z coworker or our boss. And then once we're done talking to them, we're like, I don't really feel as good because they weren't excited. Of course, they're not as excited. They're not you. They don't have the same dreams. They don't have the same goals. They don't have the same desires. It's not to say that they don't want to cheer you on. It's just to say that you have to be mindful when you're in just this top half of the portion of manifestation. Okay. We'll get to the point where you're able to celebrate that, when you are able to share it. But when you're sharing that and you're feeling good, either you will start to feel like you're deflating a little bit, or what also happens is that since you spoke about the manifestation and you spoke about your goals and you're getting all creative and happy and in the flow about it, your body and your mind will communicate with one another and start to believe that you've actually done it because you've got the dopamine hit. And then your momentum and your drive gets weaker. It gets weaker. It gets weaker. Haven't you ever had that person in your life that always tells you, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And then next week you catch up with them and you're like, hey, how's this, and the other thing? And then they're like, oh yeah, no, I didn't do that. And you're like, what? Like you were so excited about it. You know what I'm saying? And they're always like talking about what they're going to do, but they never actually do it. That's not us. We don't claim that vibe here. Okay. And I want you guys to understand that any sort of training or mentorship process that we do together, I want you all to be very, very integrated in it. So if there's anything that lands for you, if there's anything that you're like, yes, oh my gosh, I agree, then I want you to type that into the chat, okay? As we have this time right now where our microphones are off. And this is also another reminder that if your cameras are off, please make sure that you're turning them on, because it helps me connect to you guys a lot more. And it gives us more of an integrated experience where it's not just like, all right, we're just here listening to something, or we're just here, whatever. I want it to be an actual community setting. So please, if it's not on already, I don't care what your hair looks like. I don't care if you don't have makeup on. I don't care if kids are running around. Like, you're fine. You're good. I promise you. Like, we all love you. We're here for you. We're supporting you. This is the process. So, once we have understood the words that we're saying, and maybe not to share everything to everyone just yet, it drops down even further into our heart space. And now sometimes it's like the call is happening from within the house, right? Sometimes your heart is going to feel that desire and you're like, whoa, when did the other stuff start to happen? Sometimes it doesn't happen in that specific order. Sometimes you'll take action on things and you don't even know why, and then it wound up giving you the manifestation that you wanted. Sometimes you'll have a desire of something and you didn't even know that you really had that idea kind of like fully fledged out just yet. Or you start speaking on something and then you're like, oh wow, no, I feel the emotion from it. So don't think that it has to be like X, Y, Z, because energy is not a step-by-step process. I'm just helping you understand it in this kind of way and in this sequence, because it's better for you to understand it once we get to the actual healing process, okay? So then you have your heart space, and your heart space is literally the powerhouse. It is 60 times more potent. The electromagnetic frequency, right? What did I just talk about? There's two organic sources of energy. There's the electric and there's the magnetic. And every single one of our energy centers, plus our whole entire being as a whole, and every single living creature on this planet has an electromagnetic field. Electromagnetic fields, okay? The electromagnetic field of our heart space is 60 times stronger than that of just the mind alone. So when you're having that desire, when you're having that intuition about you, when you're getting really excited and your feelings are playing a part of it, I want you to listen to that. Okay. And so many people do not listen to their intuition. So many people don't take action based off of that intuition. They don't take that inspired action. So many people have dreams that they let die because they cannot physically form that vision, or they don't know how to talk about it, because all they keep doing is say, well, I have this dream, but I have this dream, except I have this dream. However, no. That's not the person who would receive that manifestation. You know what I'm saying? So this is a lot. This training should be like $100 or more to be here, honestly, because we're touching on so many different points of how you actually shift your whole entire identity. Okay. So if you're feeling me, again, put a landed or a yes in the chat. When your heart space is doing its heart space thing, right? And then you start to get that excitement, and then it closes up, right? Then you get the anxiety. Then you get the fear. Then the ego starts to come in and says, no, you can't have that. Who told you you could have that, right? Who told you were good enough for that? Who told you you're worthy enough for that? No. And then you start to get sad. Oh, I want this. I can't have it. What? Who told you that? Lies. All of them lies, all of them lies, to fire, burn them, like literally burn them. You have to be able to have enough discernment between different versions of you. And I promise you, there's many, many different versions of you. It's not just you, and then that's it. It's like your higher self, and then it's your ego self, and then it's your 3-year-old self, and then it's your self from just this morning who was like really crabby because she didn't get her coffee. You know what I'm saying? There's so many different versions of you, and you can still connect to future versions of you as well. You can connect to the ancestors. They're still a part of you. Past lives, they're still a part of you. Okay. So I want you to have discernment between the different aspects of yourself and who's talking, because a lot of us just have this voice in our mind and then we think it's just one, right? But no, I think, therefore I am. We are the observer of all of these things happening within us. So it's okay to say, okay, my human self is feeling very anxious right now, right? Or this one version of me is feeling super anxious, but I still have this dream. I still have this desire. I still want to be able to see this all the way through. And I know that I can do it. I can still have doubts, but still make my way and work my way towards where it is that I want to be and where it is that I want to go. Okay. So be very, very, very mindful. I'm going to add some more people into this room. Give me 1 second, you guys. Perfect. So once we have that desire, right? And we're like, okay, like it's here. And then we have that little form of resistance. Don't use that form of resistance as something to stop you. Okay. That should be your sign to keep moving forward. That should be your sign of, ooh, I have energetic leverage. Everything here is energy. This is an energetic game. This is an energetic world. So energy cannot be created or destroyed. So if energy cannot be created or destroyed, what can we do with it? We can alchemize it. We can transmute it. Okay. Meaning we can turn it from one thing into another. So your level of energetic resistance, your level of stress, your level of anxiety, your level of I can't do that is just as big as the level of you who is able to receive that. Okay. So you have to be able to understand, I want this thing. I want this money. I want this person. The desire is huge. The fear is equally as huge. I have to be able to release that fear, transmute it, heal it, alchemize it. And then now, once that is released, that huge fear is turned into a huge ability or capacity to then receive what it is that you want. Okay. You have to clear out energetically the clutter and use that space that you have as room for things to come in, as room for things to come in. Okay. So is that making sense? Are we here all together understanding everything so far? Let us know in the chat. Are we understanding things so far? Are we writing things down? Do we have our notes? The fear that you're experiencing, the stress that you're experiencing, the resistance in any kind of form that you're experiencing is the gravity, is the weight that has to be removed and released for you to have that space and capacity to be that person who would have that thing. What's important about healing is that once you have that gaping hole of energy, and we're just going to use that as a metaphor, I'll come up with something better next live stream. But right now it's the gaping hole of energy. It's the chasm in which you're able to infuse something into your own electromagnetic field that would literally be the same vibration of your manifestation. Okay. So this is a completely different workaround. Like, let me know if you've heard of manifestation in this way before or not. I honestly would like to know. This is what makes this kind of work with me so special and so unique and so different. It's the way that we're translating it. So once you have that huge gaping hole or chasm space that needs to be filled, it still has the energetic frequency of its last memory of the fear, of the anxiety, of the stress. And if you let it, it will quickly refill with the fear, the energy of stress, of overwhelm, of burnout, of scarcity, of lack. Okay. It'll quickly go back to that because you didn't infuse anything into it. And this is where people get stuck in a healing trap or a shadow work trap. I'm healing, I'm healing, I'm healing, I'm healing, I'm healing, but I don't really feel any better. I'm crying, I'm crying, I'm crying, I'm crying, I'm crying. Tomorrow I'm still gonna cry, right? You know what I'm saying? It's us getting stuck in that, oh, I just need to heal this. And once I heal this, but no, I get to heal this and then I'll feel free. I get to heal this and then I'll receive this. I'll get to heal this and then I'll just feel pleasant. I get to heal this and then it won't be weighing down on me anymore. Okay. We have to start kind of like changing how we are perceiving the healing journey and perceiving receiving in general. All right. So, what do we do when we have that gaping chasm, that gaping hole, and it's full of the ability for you to shift into the person who you are, infuse yourself with that energy that you prefer, you infuse it with the goodness, you infuse it with that love instead of the fear, you infuse it with the dancing instead of binge watching TikTok, you infuse it with all of the action and all of the literal emotion of someone who would normally and by their own standards of lifestyle have that manifestation come down in autopilot. And that part is very specific because it typically requires some sort of action. If you can correlate a positive emotion to an action and do that on repeat, that will also help you reprogram your mind and rewire your nervous system, which is super important. Because some of us will have a nervous system that is so used to being hardwired for anxiety that once we are clearing and releasing, it's like we self-sabotage. It's like, I know I should be working on this one thing because it's going to get me my manifestation. I know I should be doing this and X, Y, Z, putting myself out there if I want to be seen by other people and have healthy relationships. But I'm going to choose to do this instead. I'm going to choose this because your nervous system and your subconscious mind have only ever done what you've done in the past. So you have to associate that positive emotion with a new action. And this is what the self-healing game plan is going to be able to let you do in a way that you're like, okay, it's right here. If I ever get lost, I'll just look at this damn piece of paper that I wrote on a Friday, January 24th with Mystique, and I'll get back on track. Okay. That's why we're doing this process in this way. This is not just a live stream where you're hearing information and you're like, that felt good. And you go about your day and you do the same damn thing. This is only for the people. Like, I truly believe that all 6 of you are here because you're going to move mountains in your life. And I'm not saying that lightly at all. I know that you are attracted to this because you're a game changer. I know that you're attracted to this because you're ambitious. I know that you are attracted to this because you're going to make something happen for yourself. Okay. Let me know if that's you. If it's not, okay. But I don't believe that that's not you. Okay. Let me know if that's you in the chat. Once we have that emotion, we right away went into action taking. So the lower 3 energy centers of the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root are all what helps us connect to that magnetic energy. Okay. That magnetic energy helps us take action. It's our connection to the physical plane, the material world. And so once we start to take that action that has us connecting to that emotion that feels good, we start to feel a lot more activated very physically. No longer is it just the emotions or the mind, but like we're pumped. Like you wake up and you don't feel lethargic. You wake up and you feel ready to go, right? Or you hop into that meeting and you know that after that meeting, you have to sit down with your boss and it's going to be that talk of a promotion. And you're like, I'm fired up. Like maybe I'm a little nervous, but it's okay. Like I'm ready. I'm hot. I don't need caffeine today. I'm good to go. That is that life force energy. That life force energy is very necessary. However, that life force energy can be blocked by so many things. Us not feeling worthy, us not feeling deserving, us feeling insecure, us not sleeping well over and over and over and over and over again. So we're just literally tired. Our body just doesn't have any gas left in the tank, right? Our connection to our inner child, if that's a healthy one or a not healthy one, that also impacts our life force energy. How much we decide to let joy in our life, or how much we decide to just, let things happen, go with the flow. We're not really feeling excited about anything, so we're not doing anything. We're not trying anything new. We think that we have to wait for the motivation to come, which never does, by the way. You have to actually do the thing to then feel good about the thing, to then say, I want to do that again, because then the motivation comes from the emotion that you're feeling. That's why when you're working out a couple days, you're like, well, I feel good when I'm working out, but okay, like, let me just do it again. Okay, let me just do it again. Okay, I'm going to keep on doing this because it feels great. Same thing that when you're eating something, right? When you're eating something that has nutritional value, you're like, oh, I have to eat because I gotta be healthy. And you're eating, you're like, oh, I have more energy today. Oh, I'm feeling like happier today. Oh, I'm feeling a little bit funnier today. I feel a little bit more sexy today, right? And when you have that, you do it over and over again. That's your motivation. You don't just like do whatever you're doing and stay completely complacent in life and get comfortable in your discomfort, which we're going to talk about later too, and then say, oh, okay, I'm motivated now. That doesn't happen. You have to take the action to feel motivated, not feel motivated to take the action. Okay. So when we're thinking of that solar plexus, take that action. Allow that motivation to increase little by little. Allow yourself to have that momentum come and build and build and build and have that snowball effect. And we'll talk about ways to heal after, but I want you to have this down logically. We're literally going down the beaten path of what we're explaining. I'm explaining it to you, and we're going to do it in the same exact way in a moment. Then we have the sacral. This is our pleasure center. This is where we have cravings. This is where we have that inspiration. This is where we connect physically to other people. This is our sexuality, our sensuality. And sexual energy, by the way, is the most potent form of energy that exists here in this planet. It literally creates worlds. Okay. So when we are identifying with ourselves or with other people, you're so much like me. And it's like that physical, like magnet to that other person. Or if you don't like someone, you're like, ooh, like they just stepped into the room. I gotta leave. Like they just repel you. Also, like how magnets repel each other. That is all coming from the sacral energy. Okay. So when you're thinking of attracting something or receiving something, I want you to think of that in the way of, am I actually being a magnet right now? Am I actually finding moments of inspiration? Am I actively correlating to my pleasure center, or am I not correlating anything to my pleasure center? Am I kind of avoiding things that I know that would make me happy? Or am I using my pleasure center in the way of only having cravings, and now I have addictions to some things, right? I could work on this one project and it's going to make me feel like I'm moving forward in my desire, or I can have 5 more energy drinks because it helps numb the pain of not being where I want to be just yet. Okay. I'm going to have like 10 more extra donuts today because it's just what has been making me feel good, even though I need to work on the way that I look instead. But the sugar, it helps me, it helps soothe this worry that I have. It helps soothe this emotion that I'm not facing and that I'm not releasing. And so I just keep infusing more of the old stuff, more of the same, more of what's going to keep me held back. So there's all sorts of different ways that sacral not being in balance could potentially impact you. Okay. Or maybe you're someone who is very hypersexual and you're allowing yourself to use all of that sexual energy on other people instead of yourself, instead of your dreams, instead of getting into an own creative flow, right? Because your creativity is what you were sent here for. You were here to create. You were creation meant to create other things and then have that expand, not only for the benefit of you, but the benefit of others and the benefit of the world. I'm pretty sure that every single person here has some little desire within you, no matter how big or small, that you want to change the world and you want to change it for good, right? I mean, I know I cannot be the only one here with that kind of imagination or that kind of desire or drive. We're all here to either make the planet better, make humans happy. That's what work is, essentially. We all go to work or have a career that is meant to serve the people. Automatically, it always comes down to other people. It always comes down to impact. It always comes down to influence. Okay. So once you understand a little bit more of using your creativity and using that impulse in a positive way towards where you want to go, having that sexual charge go forth into something that will actually provide a long-lasting change for you that's positive, that you actually want, we drop down into the root. And from the root, that's when we're able to say, I'm okay with or without this happening. So all that beautiful work of we're going to make this happen. We're going to talk about it. We're going to not talk about it to the wrong people. We're going to, fulfill our dreams. We're going to feel so happy. We're going to do it lightheartedly. We're going to take all this action. It's going to make us feel good. We're going to get to the right rooms with the right people. We're going to network. We're going to have all this sexual energy. We're going to feel so good. We're going to activate our kundalini. We're going to change the whole entire world. And then we're going to let it go. And then we're going to let it go. Because what can happen in that point of, I would say, it depends. I think it depends on person to person where that point could happen. But there comes a point where you will start to develop an attachment. And by the laws of the universe, they don't want us to have attachments, right? They don't think it's healthy. Everything has to grow, right? Can you imagine if we, grew in our physical human bodies and then our skin was just always attached in a way where it wouldn't budge, it wouldn't give, it wouldn't shed, it wouldn't turn into something else. We'd have like the snake skin that was on us the whole entire time. We would literally grow out of our skin. It would be completely like out of whack and weird and not right. And the same thing happens with plants. They have to grow from a small pot into a bigger pot and a bigger pot and a bigger pot. Like your environment has to change. You have to be able to expand in a different way, and you have to let go of certain things. And so that was like the weirdest metaphor and analogy that I could have used for that, but that's what came. So I just went with it. But you see what I mean here. We have to be able to have a level of enthusiasm and excitement and creativity and inspiration and passion, but also making sure that we're not so attached to it that we get caught up in the, well, how is it going to happen? How is the devil? How is the worst? And I struggle with this too. So that's why I get to call it the devil. How is the worst? Because how is not our responsibility. How is spirit's responsibility? Okay. So I really want you guys to write that down. How is not your responsibility. There could be a million different ways how, right? That's why so many people are in business. Lose weight. How? Buy my thing. Be rich. How? Do this thing, right? There's so many ways of how, all of them work. Okay. It's not up to you to decide how it's going to work. It's up to you to decide that it's going to be, that you've chosen it, that it aligns with you, that you resonate with it, that it makes you feel good, that it makes you happy, that it makes you feel fulfilled, that it makes you feel peaceful, that it makes you feel empowered and like you're alive. And then you anchor in, you create a plan, you follow the plan. It's as easy as that. You create the plan, and we're creating the plan today. We're gonna get into hot seat coaching, but you create the plan and then you execute it. Okay. What happens if I do a step in the plan and I didn't work? You tweak it, right? Scientific formula. Life is an experiment, right? Experiment with it. Don't say, oh, this one step worked and then this one step didn't, so now I'm just going to throw the whole entire thing in the trash. No, let me see how somebody else did it. Let me see how somebody else did it. Okay, I'll try that for a day. I'll try that for a week. I'll try that for a month. Oh, it still didn't work. I'm the worst. Blah, 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 blah. You're connected to the how. Stop being connected to the how. Let it go. Maybe that's where you guys are getting very tripped up in manifestations of saying, well, I don't know how, so I don't want to start. I don't know how, so I don't want to continue, right? Don't let that get you effed up. Like, don't let it fuck you up, like truly. So we want to be able to get into the place of security, of safety, of feeling protected, of feeling sure, of feeling all right, of feeling neutral with or without that damn thing. Okay. And that's when you actually get to the quantum leaping portion of it. Okay. That's when you start to quantum leap. Now, with all of this said, it can seem easy or simple when we lay it out all like this. And it is to a certain degree, but when you're living it, then you get the resistance, and then you're like, oh, the same resistance that scared me for the past 8 years, it's coming back up again, you know? And when you're truly trying to like do the work, sometimes it'll catch you off guard. Sometimes you'll just have a bad day. Sometimes you just don't want to do the work. And I get that, but you have to go back to the why. So drop the how, increase the why. Why do I want this? What is it going to do for me? Why is it that I feel this way about it? Why do I find it so important? Why do I still want it even though it seems like the universe is not trying to make it happen for me? Yeah? You increase the why, you let go of the how. Okay? From this point, does anyone have questions? Are we ready to actually go over the steps of the self-healing game plan? That was all the prep. That was all the prep. And I know that I keep doing this to myself. I'm like, I'm going to go on a live stream for 1 hour. I'm a chatty Cathy. I don't. So if any of you guys don't have another like 30, 40, maybe another hour to share with me, that's totally fine. This live stream is recorded and it's going to be inside of the Mystique Awakening free community for you to revise. But if you're here and you're here to be here, then love you. Glad that you're here. So is everyone picking up what I'm putting down? We're all ready to start with the step-by-step, right? So the number one step of the self-healing game plan is to create your vision. So what is your vision? And are you dreaming big enough? Think about it in health. Think about it in wealth. Think about it in relationships. Why those three? Those are the three things that drives everyone crazy. It either keeps you asleep or keeps you up at night, or it makes you go to sleep very well, right? If your health and your wealth and your relationships are all good, oh, sleep like a baby, sleep like a rock. If any one or more of those things are out of whack, oh, fuck, like, Like then we get all spazzy and then we don't know how to function and then everything gets crazy, right? And then we spiral from there. We don't want that. So what's the vision? What is the vision? And this is something that you already maybe came into this process with, or you're writing it down right now. I want you to write it down right now. Like, what is your vision? And we can just have it be little like shorter ones because I do want you guys to work on this, but I know that you're going to beef it up when you have more time alone after the live stream. And right now you're kind of intaking, but I want you to just jot down like, okay, like this is my vision. It's this, it's in health. This is my vision in wealth. This is my vision in relationships. And if you don't have a really good vision or strong enough vision for health and relationships, but it's really strong in wealth, that's like the pinnacle of why you decided to come here, just focus on that. That's totally fine. You can always do the other two another time. So what is your vision? And then are you dreaming big enough? Are you? And I'll test you because I'm going to ask you what those visions are. So that's why I want you guys to have them ready. Once we go through these steps, I want you guys, I'm going to call on each and every single one of you and see where you guys are at with this. And then we'll tweak it from there, okay, to help you out. Number 2, what area needs the most improvement in your life? Your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, or your spiritual body? What area needs the most improvement? So if we're breaking it down into health-wise and well-being-wise for you, what's the most important right now? The physical, the emotion, the mental, or the spiritual? If it's in your relationships, okay, is it physical? Or maybe we're not really having the best sex right now. And so it's super physical. Maybe I'm not really feeling safe in my body or secure in my body in general. Maybe I don't really like to take pictures when we go out, but then I'm realizing we're on year 5 of our relationship and we don't have anything to show for it, right? Like I want that Instagram picture. I want that whatever, Is it emotional? Oh, like our emotional connection was on fire when we first started going out, but now it's just kind of like things are not right. Like I don't feel, that they can hear me. I don't feel like I'm being well received emotionally. I don't feel like I can even communicate when I have a heightened, emotional awareness. I want you guys to break it down. So where in your life do you need the majority of that kind of improvement or awareness? Step number 3. What are your biggest setbacks? And be honest. This is like really the core. Like what are your biggest setbacks really? And a lot of you are going to come to me with a couple different excuses, and that's fine. But I want you to get to the core. I want you to think of like, okay, my setback is I don't have enough money. And my improvement that I want is I just want to have an abundance mindset. So it's going to be mental. And my vision is to be a millionaire. Please, like, please. Okay. So if your biggest setback is that you don't have enough money, what does that really come down to? Is it that you're feeling insecure with having copious amounts? Is it that your nervous system is not yet regulated enough to hold a specific capacity of wealth? Is it that you're out of a job? So it's physical, right? What's going on here? I don't have enough money, right? Or I don't love myself. Okay, you don't love yourself. Which I don't truly believe that there's one person on this world that doesn't love themselves 100%. Like you love yourself in some category, in some way, shape, or form. There's something that you feel good about yourself in some way, shape, or form. So like, what is it? I want you guys to really get into the nitty gritty of what that setback is. Or how are all the ways that you are holding yourself back from the goal that you have? So how are you actively getting in your own way? How are you actively getting in your own way? I want you guys to write that down. And I know I'm going a little bit fast. If we need some more time, just let me know in the chat. Number 4 is a big one. Number 4 is a big one, which is Courtney's favorite one. And this inspired everything. For those of you who have just come onto this live training, I've done this live training before, a little bit over a year ago, I believe, and it transformed Courtney's whole entire life. And we had a really long, juicy meeting yesterday, and she was like, this was one of the most pivotal moments, and it was number 4. So we're gonna get into number 4, super exciting. Number 4 is, what is it costing you to not be consistent in your self-healing journey or your goals, whatever it is? To me, self-healing journey, manifestation, same thing. That they're synonymous in my eyes, in my world. Like healing and manifestation is literally equal. in my world. So what is it costing you not to be consistent? Now, when you think of cost, immediately your mind goes to money. You're like, okay, like what is it costing me? I don't know, like a couple $100. I don't know. No, yes, and no. Cost can be monetary and financial, but the thing with that is that money is a renewable resource. We all know that. We can trade our time, our skills, our talents, and receive money. What is non-renewable is our time, our energy, and our attention. As soon as we spend those, we never get those back. We never get those back. Why do you think that like the government and the media and all the publicists like want that so much from us so that we don't create? Okay. But we're here to create. So the time, the energy, the attention, what is it costing you? So if you have this vision of a beautiful, harmonious relationship, you want to find your soul person, it's gonna be so juicy, you're gonna fall in love, you're gonna have so many babies, like that's like your dream, but you're not being consistent and actively going towards that. What is it costing you not being consistent in that? What is it costing you choosing the same old patterns over and over again? What is it choosing you not investing in a mentor or a program or a course that could help you shift? What is it costing you by not taking the time to understand the beliefs that you have that are holding you back? What is it literally costing you? Because it's not just about the money. There's so much more value in life in other ways than just money. It's not just money. Okay. So what is it costing you to not be consistent? Why haven't you been consistent? Why haven't you been putting in the reps? Why haven't you been pushing yourself forward? Why haven't you been radically responsible? Why haven't you been holding yourself accountable? Why haven't you been getting into the rooms with the people who have what you want and learning from their breadcrumbs? Why haven't you been doing that? What is it costing you to not continue pursuing what it is that you know that you're meant to experience? Because let me tell you, the dream doesn't go away. Even if you feel like you've had dreams that died, they haven't died. You still remember them. They've never died. They've always been there. They're not going to go away because they need to be realized and actualized by you. And so if your dreams are never going to go away, truly, and they're never going to die, why spend so much of your life in a time of suffering, not receiving that, not experiencing that, when you could just be consistent? When you can be the number one thing that I receive from my clients for the past 5 years, the number one challenge in their self-healing goals or manifestation goals is that they're not consistent. So what is it costing you not to be? Number 5, how much time are you giving yourself daily and weekly? We're going to shorten it up. We're going to tighten it up a little bit. How much time are you actually giving yourself daily and weekly to pursue your self-healing, to pursue your peace of mind, to pursue better love within yourself and care for yourself? How much time are you actually giving yourself? Are you listening to a 30-minute podcast Monday, and then by Friday you forgot every single thing that you heard in the podcast? Are you only giving yourself, a couple minutes before you head into the big interview for work and to just like meditate and like sit in silence, and you keep going through your whole entire emotions, and you're not energy cleansing yourself, you're not protecting your energy, you're not, setting boundaries, you're not taking the actions that will align you to being the best kind of person you could be in your career or in your field? Like, how much time are you giving yourself? An abundant amount of time, right? And what are you doing with that time? Are you sitting in meditations for 2 hours every single day and feeling so good and feeling so juicy? And then the second you get out of the meditation, everything in your world starts to creep up again. And you're like, oh, this fucking sucks. I wish I could just go back and meditate. Are you using that time wisely, or are you using it to be avoidant? Right? So be very mindful of how you're using that time, not just how much do you have of it, but how are you utilizing it? Really be so honest with yourself. And this is a judgment-free zone. I know that I'm Latina. I am a fiery person. Like, I can be very blunt and very direct, but everything that I ever do for you guys is straight out of pure love, truly. So it's a love and a shove. So don't feel like, oh my God, you're kind of like attacking me right now. And like, no, I'm activating you. If you're feeling something while I'm talking to you, it's activation. It's not being mean. It's not judging you. It's not critiquing you. It's just calling out those weaknesses within you that if you just gave it a little bit of your own kind of love and a shove, and you would be honest about those different aspects that you're hiding from, then you could move those mountains like we're talking about. So if I'm being like very blunt, or if I'm being very like to the point, it's for a purpose. Don't ever feel like we're judging you here, because we're absolutely not. I promise you, I've lived 1,000 lifetimes in this life. There's nothing you can do or say that will shock me. And I mean it. Like I've experienced so much personally through my other clients, through friends, through family members. Like there's no judgment here. Seen it all before, for the most part. And if something shocks me, then I will give you a cookie, because that's crazy. And I like cookies. So with that, how much time are you giving yourself daily and weekly? Could you increase it? Could you decrease it? Or could you utilize it better? Okay. 6. We only have a couple more. 6. Are you asking the right questions to your mentor, aka me? You might have other programs that you're a part of, mentorships that you're a part of. You may go to classes for something. You may learn different things from other people. That's totally fine. But right now, it's me and you, baby. I'm your mentor. So are you asking me the right questions? Are you getting into my DMs? Are you asking me comments in my comment section? Are you going into different posts that I have and saying, wow, I see that you did this. Why? Or, I heard that you talked on this or touched on this. Like, can you explain it further? Like, I know so many of you just within the past like week or so have gotten into the free community. So maybe you don't feel like you've had enough time to actually like formulate that question. But by the end of this, you should have tons of questions. Like if I end this and I say, does anyone have any questions? And no one speaks up, I didn't do my job right. You should have questions. You should have a lot of questions, because the more inquisitive you can be about life, the more invested you are into life, the more you're playing the game, and the more that you play with the little like levers and pulleys of life, the more that you're going to start to reveal not only of yourself, but from life in general. You're going to start to peek behind the curtains. And now we're getting into the whole like matrix theory and everything like that. But when we're quantum leaping, we have to talk on those things. We have to touch on those things. So I want you guys to have these kinds of questions. Are you asking questions? Are you asking the right questions? And are you asking them to the right people? Okay. Some of you guys are too busy asking questions to Google and ChatGPT when you could be asking an actual human. Okay. You could be asking an actual human. And the benefit that you all have of being in my world and being in my free community is that I literally have a tab inside of the Mighty Network platform that says Ask Mystique. So I really do hope that after this, you have some time to reflect. And if you're not asking the questions here because they didn't land to you here in this moment, that you're going and asking those questions, either privately DMing me, emailing me, texting me for some of you who have my phone number, or going into that section and doing the Ask Mystique so that everyone can benefit from the question that you're asking. Okay? Truly. That is so pivotal. That is so important. So important. Because if you're not playing along with the game, if you're not getting your hands, into it, what are you really doing? You have a vital, valuable resource right here for free. Now, do I have programs where I could help you more? Yes. Do I have mentorships where you would have more exclusivity to me? Yes. But when you ask a question, I'm going to obviously help you here. Okay. So if you want closer proximity, if you want more of this juicy goodness, but just to you and to you only, that's when we can talk about the other resources that I have. But for right now, if you have like a one-off question, ask it. Okay. Don't say like, wow, I've been watching Mystique for 4 years and she's been doing Reiki and she's been doing all these things and I've been benefiting from it, but I'm still kind of in the same place that I'm in my life. I'm not really feeling very happy. I'm not really feeling fulfilled. I'm not feeling peaceful. I'm not feeling harmonious. I'm not feeling in balance with the world. I'll just be silent. What? Doesn't make sense. Throw that mentality out. That's a scarcity mindset and I don't like that. And we don't approve of that here. So ask the questions when you have them. Okay. And if you don't have a question, think of a question, please. Thank you. Number 7, almost done, I promise. Number 7, are you comfortable with your discomfort? Be honest with yourself. Be so honest. Are you comfortable with your discomfort? If you haven't been consistent, if you haven't been taking the time to have awareness, if you haven't been, taking the appropriate action that's inspired, that is intuitively led, not fear-based, right? Led by your ego. Are you comfortable with that discomfort? Are you allowing yourself to say like, you know what? I haven't been doing all these things. It's okay. Like, what's another day? What's another week? What's another, oh, the new year just happened. New year, new me. Go crazy. Like, I'm gonna have my new year resolutions. And you're still showing up as the same person that you were the last year, the last 2 years, the last 3 years, the last 5 years. Like, truly. I'm shifting, I'm doing a little bit different. No, you're listening to a podcast, you're forgetting everything that they said, you're not implementing it, you're not integrating it, you're not actually doing the work, you're not asking the right questions, you're comfortable in your discomfort. Your discomfort has become so frequent that you began to normalize it in your subconscious, and you began to normalize it inside of your physical body, and you began to normalize it in your emotional body, and you began to normalize it in your mental body. And spirit, I wouldn't say that you would normalize it in your spiritual body, but if you're disconnected to your own spirit, then you've normalized that too. Okay? So how can you get uncomfortable again with all the things in your life that make you feel like you're suffering, that make you feel like you're held back, that make you feel like you can't move forward, that make you feel like you're just the same person over and over and over again through all these years, and you're in the same relationships and the same cycles, and you're never breaking those habits, and you're never breaking those patterns, and oh, woe is me, and oh, I'm the victim, right? Bringing that back up again. If you are comfortable with your discomfort, you're living in victimhood mentality. If you're allowing yourself to get agitated, if you're allowing yourself to be like, this is enough, like, universe, hello, listen to me. Like, why are you answering everyone else's prayers and not mine? You know, like, if that's you, you're victim. You're victim. You have to be able to say, you know what, this is over for me now. Like, I don't have any more time. It's costing me way more being comfortable in my discomfort than if I were to just actually be active and do something. Stop being complacent with the life that you have right now if you know it's not where you want to be. If you know where it's not where you want to be. Okay? Stop being. Now, that's not to say that, let's say you do this work, you're healing, you're manifesting, you're living the lifestyle that you want to, and then you keep reaching for bigger and bigger and bigger goals. I still want you to think of like, okay, well, like, yes, once you hit that level that you want to hit, allow yourself to say, okay, I can cruise, I can be healthy and complacent with this for a time being, right? Like, reward yourself for getting to that level that you wanted to get. If you've moved a mountain in your life or you climbed the top of it, don't just slide right the fuck back down. Like, just because you think that you have another one to climb, allow yourself to enjoy that view. Okay. So there is a time to be like, okay, I know that I have these goals and I know I want to get there. And I don't really feel like I'm there yet because I'm over here. But there was a version of me that could not wait to get to this point. So let me give myself my flowers. That's totally fine. But if you get to that point where you've given yourself the flowers and now the flowers are wilted, and you got the cheers and you've been like hooting and hollering, and now your voice is hurting, and now you're waiting to do something else and be someone else and go somewhere else, yeah, get that fire burning a little bit more again. Okay. So are you comfortable with your discomfort? And then the last thing I'll touch on something else a little bit before we get into the hot seat, but I want to make sure that we have enough time for everybody's hot seats. Number 8 is set an end date for your vision and your desired reality. And this could be one of the scariest parts of it all, because we can have fun with steps 1 through 7. But when we get to step 8, now we're solidifying it, right? So this is exactly why I said we're kind of doing this in the way of your own energy centers and of the way that manifestations typically flow throughout your body. So setting that end date for yourself can feel daunting because the second you're like, okay, I want all of this by this point in time, that's where a lot of the resistance can creep back up again. It's fun to imagine things, but we're not here just to imagine things. Imagining things is the easiest thing, the freest thing that you could do in this whole entire world. You can close your eyes and imagine a pink elephant, and it would be a pink elephant, and like, woohoo, like you could do anything that you want in that world. You can go to sleep, dream, and then have this fantastical, wonderful world that you're in. That's like the easiest thing that you could do, right? The not so easy thing to do is to take that spiritual energy, that electric energy, and allow it to become physical. Okay. That sometimes just is inconceivable to some people. But this is the work that needs to be done in order for you to actually see the results that you want. So if you're like, I've been in the self-healing game for a minute, I've been in the manifestation game for a minute, I've been listening to all the podcasts, all the audiobooks, I've been going to all the webinars, all the seminars, I've been going to all the retreats, been doing all the things, and then you're still stuck the way that you are because you haven't actually taken the practical steps. Okay. You did some steps and kudos to you. But if you're still not where you want to be after all that you did, something's not clicking. Something's not right there. Okay. We want to make sure that you are like, this is the idea. This is the vision. These are my emotions. These are the actions. I'm letting go. Boom. Got it. Right. And in a time frame that is like, wow, that's kind of crazy. So the goal here is not necessarily to say, okay, I'm going to set this end date for the end of February. It's like literally only like a month away. But it's not to say I want all these things and I'm going to wrap it up in a cute little bow and package and then boop, it's going to happen February 25th, right? It's not to say that and then necessarily have it all come on that day. It's to give your mind a frame of we can make this happen and we can make this happen anytime you want. So let's give ourselves that capacity because once you give yourself that end date, it becomes a lot more real to you. You can anchor down into it. And you may or may not hit that date with your manifestations. You probably will hit at least a couple of them, maybe not everything, but you'll feel a lot closer to it. But if you give yourself an undecided amount of time, you will start to dilly-dally. You'll start to feel the comfort of your discomfort again. You'll start to retract and retreat back to who it is that you were. And we don't want that. Not if you don't want to be who you were, right? So when you give yourself that container, it should allow you to breathe a little bit more, right? Like I need to be financially free, okay? But like I've been giving myself the past however many years to be financially free and it hasn't worked. So what is all this vision boarding? What is all this healing gonna really do if it's still not gonna lead to the same thing? Well, you give yourself a date, you give yourself a container, you give yourself a time frame. And it's just something to help you measure it. Because let's say February comes and you're not all the way there yet to financial freedom, but you still were able to pay off all your bills. And well, I mean, financial freedom is like paying off your bills. Let's just say that you're able to pay down one of the biggest credit card amounts that you've had. And you have been waiting to do that for the past 5 years. And now you finally did it by February. Not saying that you don't have student loans, not saying that you don't have, a mortgage or your car payment or anything like that, but you were able to do that by this time. So, okay, let's give it another little time over here and see how much you can fill out there. And now you have a marker of your success. And why that's so important is because you're giving your nervous system and your subconscious evidence and proof that you can, instead of relying on the lack of evidence and the lack of proof. Okay. And thinking that you can't. That's what so many of us do, where we have this goal, we want to go for it. All the other things happen, resistance, it sucks. We're feeling fear. Everything seems to not be working. We're having a tower moment. There's chaos. There's world tragedies. Your mom is sick. Like everything's happening, right? And then we're just feeling like, okay, well, I just can't do it. Like all the evidence in my internal reality, all the evidence in my external reality is showing me that the stars are not aligning for me and I cannot have what it is that I desire. But what happens? The desire never goes away. So if we know that, let's give ourselves more evidence then and more proof of that we can do it, no matter how big or how small. And so I'm always an advocate of you celebrating yourself as much as humanly possible to give yourself, to give your nervous system and your subconscious the evidence and the proof that it can. All right. So super important. Reward yourself. Give yourself, like I always say this to my clients. If you have a dog and you're trying to have it learn new tricks or behave in a certain way, and you're never giving it a reward, it's not going to want to do what you want it to do. You know what I'm saying? But if you're like, oh, wow, well, that was like half of what I wanted you to do, I'll give you a little bit, half of a treat right there. And it's like, oh, okay, that's what you liked. I'll do more of that. And that's exactly what the universe is going to give back to you. That's exactly what your subconscious is going to give to you. That's exactly what your nervous system is going to give you more of. But you have to give yourself that kind of treat. So give yourself the rewards when rewards are due as well in the time that you have this end date. Okay. Are we still all following me? Everyone's still good? Thumbs up in the chat. Cool. Oh yeah, on the camera, I guess, because now I can see you guys. Perfect. One small thing that I wanted to get into, I won't go too hard on it. This is something, part 9, if you will, or it could be, yeah, I would say part 9. Part 9 is essentially the rules to releasing, because we talked about releasing and healing, right, of our energetic being. When it comes to the rules to releasing, I have very specific rules. I'm just going to lay down those rules for you so that you have them and you can kind of understand them and get to where we're getting at. We're not going to talk too much about like healing here. when you're ready to actually do the healing process, we'll talk a little bit about healing, of course, but we're not going to get into the nuances of it. That is saved for beyond balance, because that I cannot sit in the time that we have and go over all the nuances of how beyond balance will teach you the tools and the practices and the techniques to heal yourself. That's very sacred, and I want to keep that sacred nature and not like generalize it or like run, just kind of bypass certain information just to drive home a point. I want that to be something that you experience in full. So I want you to take that into consideration, that if you don't have any tools or techniques or practices to help you through this self-healing game plan while you're working through this, and you're having that resistance but not necessarily knowing how to overcome it, like that's where I would say step closer to my world and do the Beyond Balance program or do my 6-month private mentorship. That way I can tap into your specific energy and help you decide, not help you decide, help you discover what is energetically impacting you the most. I will be able to kind of see and have a good sense based off of your responses when I call on you, where you may have some sort of something going on in your solar plexus or your root or whatever, but I won't be sure unless I have your like verbal or written consent to tap into your energy and then help with the healing process and really go from the root source of it and help you heal from the inside out and the outside in. So we'll go over a little bit more about Beyond Balance and what that all is afterwards, but this is the time for hot seat coaching. So tell me who wants to go first. Tell me in the chat. Who wants to go first? By now you should have written a couple different things. Maybe you don't have all 8 or 9. Oh yeah, 8. Maybe you don't have all 8. So Lawrence, you can unmute your mic. Glad to have you here. You're definitely a new face to me. So hello, welcome. Let me see if I can hear you. Hold on, I cannot hear you. Can everyone hear Lawrence? Is it just me that cannot? Give me 1 second. Might be the headphones. I'll give you a moment. Okay, not yet for Courtney as well. Nothing yet. That's okay, because sometimes technology is. No, I can read your lips, and I'm such a good lip reader, but I won't be able to. If you need to just kind of finesse the tech, totally fine. Take your time. We'll take another person real quick. You'll be right after, and we'll make sure that you're good to go. But don't worry, I'm not skipping you. Who else is ready to go right now as Lawrence gets some things situated with his microphone? Who wants to go? Don't be afraid. I won't bite. We'll just go over
Can
a
you hear me
couple of your
now?
numbers. Oh, yes, Lawrence,
No.
you're back. Okay, cool. Got it.
Okay.
So, Lawrence, first and foremost, are there any questions that you have that you want to ask me directly before we jump into the mentorship hot seat coaching?
Yeah, you said something, I'm coming. You said something about okay, we should ask the why after the how for manifestation.
Yeah.
So after that why, is it gonna lead back to the how, or is gonna lead to like deciding whether you want to continue the manifestation or not?
So spirit is always going to let you know the how. So you can always ask spirit, like, how do I do this? But what I don't want you to do is just be like, how, universe, how is it going to happen? And then you're always seeking externally what that answer should be for you. It's okay
Yeah.
if you want to take like other people who've already got to that lifestyle or to that point that you've wanted to be at, and like see what they were doing and kind of be like, okay, like got it. Like I was a little confused, but I see what they do. I could give it a try. It's always fun to experiment. But if you feel like you're giving your power to other people and saying, like, oh, your way's got to be the best way, your way's the best way, your way's the best way, or always asking other people, like, is it okay if you move in a certain way? Is it okay if asking the world or the universe permission to be or create or act or feel? That's when we get a little bit tripped up. But you can always sit down in a meditation, connect to your higher self, connect to your own intuition and say, all right, like how? But they won't give you the whole piece of the pie. They're only going to give you a little step because they don't want to overwhelm you. And so your intuition is going to come to you and it's going to come as a feeling. And what the most like trippy part of it is that let's say you're like, well, I want this wealth. So how do I get it? Intuition, tell me, give it to me. I want the goods. And then they'll be like, clean your room. And you're like, what? Like, what do you mean? And so you have to understand that the intuition that you're receiving, it could be something that will benefit you. So let's say,
Yeah.
let's play a little bit where that's your manifestation. You ask the how, they say clean your room, and you're like, what the hell? I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. You clean your room and then you find a check. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't deposit this check, right? So it could be something as quick or simple as that, or it could still just be a little piece of the puzzle to help you navigate. Ultimately, the last thing I'll say about this is that your intuition is always going to come through as a neutral, balanced, or even happy feeling. It will never come to you as an anxious thought, a fear-based thought, something that feels like it's holding you back or stressing you out. It'll always make you feel lighthearted, open, or just neutral altogether. And you just take that intuition in that moment. You have 5 seconds to take action on it. So let's say you're in the car, you receive an intuition. You're like, well, I can't hop out of my car and do this in 5 seconds. You could say, hey, Siri, put a note in my phone or an alarm in my phone to do X, Y, and Z. So that is one way that you took that intuition or electric or spirit energy and plugged it into the physical. As long as you're doing something to plug it into the physical within the 5 seconds or so, that is going to set you up for success. Is that clear?
Yeah. Um, my one part of my question is the why.
Yes.
Like
So the
the
why.
why is the why leading to the end of the entire. Could it lead to the end, or is it just to like resuscitate your passion again?
I would say a little bit of both. Like the why could help you kind of feel like, okay, by the end of this, like this is how I'll feel. But in reality, it's all about feeling that it's always going to come down to a core feeling. So let's say your
Okay.
manifestation is the money or the relationships. When you kind of lose yourself in like, why do I want this? Why is it so important to me? Why am I feeling this way when I think about this? When you kind of lose yourself and you're just doing all these other things that aren't really aligning to that goal, and then you come back to yourself, you're like, why, it's usually just the emotion that you want to feel. It'll make me feel secure. It'll make me feel truly
Yeah.
deeply loved. It'll make me feel like I can take on the world. And so sometimes we'll lose that why because we get too caught up in the how, and the how's not working and we're frustrated. We got to just go back to the why again and get deeper. And if you feel like, well, I'm getting this why, but it's not really hitting, it's not really coming to me, then you can still make sure that you are getting into that meditative state as best as you can, cutting out those distractions. Or what I would do something that you know is going to light you up and make you feel like you're having a lot of fun. Do something that is going to make you feel like you're in a new environment, in a new space. So get out into nature where things are always happening, things are always doing whatever it is, and they don't have a how, they just have a why. Why? I need to eat. That bird goes and flies and gets the worm, right? So having that just around you and you putting yourself into that kind of environment can help you understand the why even more in those times. Did that answer the
Okay.
question or was I off?
You answered the question.
Okay. So when it comes to your personal self-healing game plan and what your vision is, let's go over a couple of these. So what is your vision? What is your vision that you have for your
I have
self-healing or
I have
manifestation?
two visions. Yeah, I have two
Okay.
visions right now
Yeah.
as a priority. Um, I want to develop a peace of mind,
Mhm.
and also I want to work on starting a business.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so are you dreaming big enough with both of those? What does peace of mind do for you? What does that look like for you? What does that feel like other than just like, okay, maybe I'm not having anxiety or something? What does a peace of mind mean for you?
It means being able to, relax without, thinking about, because I'm actually a hyperactive person. I like to do things. I'm always in my mind. I like to think. So
Hmm.
peace of mind means being able to just sit by without wanting to do anything and just
Beautiful.
relax.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
allow yourself to maybe kind of take that hyperactivity into a state where you're like, all right, maybe, my body doesn't always have to react to what's going on with my mind. I can just literally exist and feel good existing. That's beautiful. And your second one was wanting to start your own business. So what
Yeah.
is that
My
going to
second
do for
one is
you?
starting my Yeah,
Hmm.
that sets me up financially so that I can have more time to experience life, rather than always doing stuff. I actually enjoy doing stuff, but um I've been I think that it's time to you know uh go out there and start experiencing life more rather than just working and working for financial
Yeah,
reasons. Yeah.
absolutely. Just living life more, feeling more fulfilled, being able to have that kind of freedom. So I want to
Yeah.
ask you, for you, in relation to those two visions that you have of peace of mind and wanting to start your own career for yourself, your own business, what are the areas that you think need the most improvement? Is it your physical body, emotional body, mental body, spiritual body, all of them?
I think it's my emotional body.
Hmm. Your emotional body.
Yeah.
And why do you think that? Why do you think it needs the most improvement?
Because I think I need to learn to maybe uh in certain situations I can say I'm emotionally healthy, but in certain situations, especially stressful situations, my emotions could get the better of me,
Okay.
and so I would like to improve that so that especially when stuff is stressful, like I've been coming out of you know a health issue, and it's emotionally stressful, made it difficult for me to go out there in the world to enjoy my life. So I
Yeah.
just want to be able to handle my emotional you know uh self in such
Yeah.
situations so I can go on with life and still be happy.
Absolutely. And that's important too, especially when not only for the peace of mind, but when it comes to the business component of it, because a lot of
Yeah.
times business is like you can't put your all your emotions in business. And sometimes you going through that entrepreneurial journey, if your emotions are too much or too heavy, or if any one little thing can just trip you up and it makes your whole entire day something that's unproductive, then you're losing out that day. You're not really feeling like
Yeah.
yourself. And sometimes if you don't know how to get yourself to that emotionally regulated or balanced state, it could
Yeah.
impact you for more than just that day. It could impact you for the whole week or the whole month if it spirals into something that large. So I'm glad that you have that kind of awareness. And let me know too, if you don't really feel like you have those tools to really help you regulate your emotion. We can get into some resources for you. We're going to end with the last question here for you, which is, what are your biggest setbacks, or how are the ways that you're holding yourself back from that core vision or goal?
Okay. For the business is procrastination. I've been procrastinating, and it's mainly because of the peace of mind I'm talking about, the emotional stuff. So
Hmm.
that has been causing procrastination for me, and I think I have to work on that, work on taking steps. It's not the steps that are the problem, is the procrastination.
Absolutely.
Then then for the peace of mind, I think I'm not meditating enough. I'm I just recently started with the meditation part of the component, but
Hmm.
sometimes I do miss out on the meditation in from time to time, uh, and I'm not doing it like maybe in the morning and evening, maybe once in a day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that's important to take note of as well, because if you know that meditation is going to help you with the peace of mind, like even in days where you're like, oh, I'm rushing or I'm late, like I can't, do this one meditation thing right now, see how you can kind of be flexible with the meditation opportunities that you have. Is it like a 5 minute break in between you doing work? Is it that you're stuck in traffic and you're like, this isn't going anywhere? Let me just zone out for like a minute or two. Let me just, play some relaxing music. Or when you're doing mundane things, you can always meditate when you're doing a chore like washing dishes, folding laundry, or something that doesn't really take up too much of your mental capacity. So, understanding in different ways how you maybe are already being in a meditative state, or how you can add that in even more or even further into your life. So, super important. And for procrastination, that's definitely an energetic issue. And procrastination oftentimes is because we have a perfectionist mindset, and we want things to be done well. And if we don't think that we can do it well that day, then we might as well not do it. Or it could also lead to more of like a self-worth issue. And so our solar plexus, if that's out of balance and it's not really feeling too hot or too good, and we're not constantly releasing those insecurities or releasing whatever is keeping us with that lower self-esteem, it's going to really truly impact that life force energy, so much so that we're not going to want to do anything at all and we'll want to rest instead of stay motivated or stay on top of our things. So be very mindful too throughout this process. I'm not sure how new to me and my world of healing that you are, but definitely understand those energy centers. And when you are ready to, make sure that not only do you have this beautiful little self-healing game plan, but you're actively doing the work to release the energy from those energy centers and infuse the energy that you need. And if you have any questions on that, we can definitely discuss that over an email or a private message, or you can do the ask me tab. But anything else that you want to say or share before we move on to the next hot seat coaching?
No, no, nothing else.
All right, Lawrence. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you for being here. You can definitely still stay here if you would like to and just listen on to everyone else's self-healing game plans. Something I did forget to mention, which I was like leading up to it and like completely dropped off like the face of the earth with it, was the rules to releasing, which could help you too, Lawrence. So when we think of those four bodies of the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, I want you to think of, this is how I can release the unwanted energy. This is what I can do. Okay. And so for the physical body, the rule to releasing here is stagnation versus movement. So our physical body is negatively impacted when we're staying stagnant, when we're not working out, when we're not stretching, when we're not doing the things that feel good to the body. And so what we then have to do is add in movement. And that movement should be something that makes you feel activated. So if you have, a workout routine that you do every single day, but still your physical body is not where you want it to be just yet, chances are you still have a lot of that emotion or unwanted energy that's trapped in your physical body that needs to be released in another way than just your regular workout routine. So figure out what kind of movement practice is good for you. And sometimes you'll stay on a movement practice like rock climbing or dancing, and you'll be there and you'll feel good. And when you're having moments of stagnation or moments of procrastination, because that's also stagnation, right? When you're procrastinating, you're not moving. So when you're having those moments and you're feeling like, okay, this is good, this is working, and then all of a sudden dancing's not working anymore. All of a sudden rock climbing's not working anymore. Don't like freak out. Allow yourself to say, what other type of movement can I now explore that will lead me to feeling more activated, more alive? And sometimes it's trial and error. Sometimes you'll go to a Pilates class and be like, that wasn't it. But at least you tried it and it was something different and it was something new. So it doesn't always have to be something that sticks for a long amount of time. Just know that you can shift it over to a different kind of movement, play around, have fun. It's not that serious. Life is a game. Keep going with the flow. Stay moving. All right. So moving to the emotional body, the rule to releasing here is solidity versus fluidity. Similar, right? We have that solid emotion, and we think of water, we think of solid, we think of ice, or we have like that fluid, right? Or even if we're thinking of solid when it comes to water, we're thinking of like a lake that's very still, or a pond that never moves, right? Or even like that swamp energy. So when we're thinking of how we can release certain unwanted emotions, we have to think of how much more fluid can we be. And typically this process is something that I like to teach in the lens of riding the wave. When you ride the wave of emotion, you're actively processing it out of your body, not just feeling emotionally and physically triggered. Oh, I'm anxious. This is the emotion that I'm having, and I don't know what to do with it. So I'll do nothing, or I'll binge watch TV, or I'll, eat a whole bunch of junk food, or I'll distract myself with other people, or do X, Y, and Z. That's staying solid. You may be band-aiding it, you may be masking it, but that's not fluidity. Fluidity is, I have this emotion, which is energy in motion, and it's got to move, but it won't move until I listen to it and I do what it says. And then I let it go with peace. because your emotion is a messenger. It's here to give you information. And if you are not receptive to that information, that wave of emotion will come right back. And sometimes it'll come back even more and even more and even more. So what a small emotional ripple could have been is now a huge tsunami or hurricane of emotion that's spiraling you out of control. And it's because it wants to stir you up enough for you to release it because you're capping it. It's like when you take a Mentos and put it into a Coke bottle. I'm like it's going to explode. And that's when it leads to emotional outbursts that we can have with ourselves or other people. Okay. And that's not what we want. We want to be able to have that message come forth. We listen to it. We identify what core emotion it actually is. And chances are anxiety is not emotion. Anxiety is a feeling in the body. So why am I feeling anxious? Play the question game. Why am I feeling upset? Why am I feeling angry? What is the root emotion? What is the primary emotion that I'm feeling? Identify it, call it out by name, ask what is it doing here, ask what it needs from you, sit with it, allow yourself to feel a little bit uncomfortable for a small amount of time. They say scientifically it only takes you about 17 seconds to fully process an emotion. Do I believe that? I don't know. Science says, who knows? I'm a little bit of a skeptic. I don't always believe everything that people tell me. But if that's the case and if that works for you, then use that, right? Because once you're able to allow that emotion, you rode the wave of it, you let it flow, then if it does come back, it's coming back with a smaller ripple, something easier to manage. Because it's like, well, you heard me the first time. So I have to come back again because I am re-triggered, but I don't have to come back as loud. Okay. And it's not to never have emotion. Emotion's always going to be there, but it's to allow yourself to say, how, and it doesn't always have to be a speed game, but if you are prone to self-sabotage and having yourself suffer time and time again for an extended amount of time, then yeah, you're probably going to want to be able to process these emotions as quickly as possible. And for you too, Lords, or anyone else, because I know there's other entrepreneurs here in this chat, I know all of you, when it comes to business or when it comes to something that you got to do and those emotions are coming through, you better know how to be like, all right, let's let that go and get to where I need to go, right? And do that not to bypass it. And sometimes there's going to be moments where you cannot let that emotion out. You're in the middle of a conference and you're up next speaking and you're holding this huge seminar and people have to learn from you and you just got a text message from your wife who's telling you that they're upset with you because X, Y, and Z and you didn't do this for the kids and now they got to go pick up the kids and you're like, oh my God, I'm in the conference and now I got to hold this conference. So sometimes you cannot allow that emotion to come out in that moment. And sometimes you do have to like button it up, do what it is that you got to do, turn on a different like animal within you, do what needs to be done, and then by the end of it, allow yourself to fully process it. Allow yourself to fully process it and give yourself the time and space. And oftentimes that comes when you're doing a meditation. So quickly wrapping up these others because I do want you guys to have the hot seat coaching. We have the mental body. When you have something that you need to release from your mental body, the rule to releasing here is suppression versus expression. Okay. So you can suppress those thoughts, those limiting beliefs. Oh, put you back in the corner. Oh, maybe I've just gotten so used to hearing this limiting belief over and over and over again that I just like suppressed it. I don't even want to, it's somewhere else. It's not, at the forefront. It's creating an identity in which I'm always running on that and I'm always taking action from that point of view, or I'm always making decisions from that point of view. But still, we could just like hide it. We can suppress it, right? Or maybe we have these thoughts that do want to come forward that would make us expand, that would make us feel good. And then we're allowing other people to silence our ideas or silence our thoughts, right? And then we're like, okay, like I can't be that way. Like I have to conform to X, Y, and Z, right? So the opposite of that would be expression. Express yourself creatively. Express yourself in the ways that make you feel like you are in the flow. And that is also another way of meditation. Meditation is a perfect form of expression as well, but I would say use your throat. Use something still very physical within you, right? You can use the pen. You can paint. You can still dance. That's a form of expression. Create art. Get creative. Express yourself. But make sure that you're not giving yourself a time limit if you can help it in those moments where you're like, I really have to mentally just like, boop, boop, gotta release. Don't give yourself a time limit. if you don't have to. Don't try to monetize it as well. So let's say you're an artist and you always paint and you sell your paintings. If you're having a time where you're like, ugh, I'm in this fucking like funk, I'm not feeling good, my mentality's all over the freaking place, like I don't know what to do with myself, I don't know how to function. Let me just create this painting, but like I got to create this painting for this client and I got to sell it to her and blah, 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 blah. Like, but it's creation, you know, it's still expression. Like, that's not going to work. You can't give yourself like that deadline in that time. You have to allow it to just be as it is. And so the best example that I have of this is from the Disney movie Soul, and where he gets into the zone and he gets into his own flow when he starts playing piano. And it's like everybody has this one connection to their own soul that allows them to express, and it doesn't have to be the same thing every time. It shouldn't really be the same thing every time. Allow yourself to find new ways of expression that feel good to you, but make you feel completely in the flow where you don't have to really consciously think about it, right? If you're sitting there like, how do I express myself? You're doing it all wrong from the get-go. It should just be something that allows you to flow. So for some people, it'll just be music. They know how to play it. They can just get lost, right? Get lost into something that is healthy without having to put some sort of like monetary price on it or some constraint of any kind, okay? And then lastly, we have the spiritual body. So here the rule to releasing is a little bit different because the spiritual body, the spirit self within itself is already like a perfect, you know, being. It's a perfect kind of energy. It's divinity within itself. However, our connection to it, that's something that we can work on. So here, the rule to releasing for the spiritual body comes down to disconnection versus connection. How connected am I, or how disconnected am I from my own being, right? From my own spirit, from my higher self, from my intuition, from universal energy, from creator energy, from a higher power, right? When you are feeling not like yourself, or you're getting too bogged down by the heavy density of this material plane, that's when you know, oh, I'm not embodying spirit right now. When your fear overpowers your ability to function, oh, I'm disconnected from spirit right now. When you find yourself getting to the same repeated cycle and you're like, I thought we've been over this, I don't want any more toxic relationships, and you just found out that this person has been cheating on you for the past 3 months, and you're like, what the fuck? Again, like you were not being very connected to spirit throughout the duration. Maybe you had the little like, you know, goggles of love on and the rose-colored lenses, and you got too far into the humanness and not enough into the spirit self. We're both spirit and matter. Remember, the electric and the magnetic. So we have to have that fusion of both. And there, the easiest way is meditation. The easiest way for that spiritual connection is meditation. Spiritual connections can come through anything. Sometimes we will be in a conversation with somebody else and we're like, that was a whole spiritual, like, you know, awakening. And that is okay too. And that is fine. But I teach you turn to you. You don't outsource what it is that you have to do because you have the power. You are the one. You are the one that's connected. So plug yourself in. And when you plug yourself into spirit, you disconnect a little bit from the human. So this where it gets tricky here too, because it's like, well, disconnection versus connection. But in order to connect, I do have to disconnect. Yes. Like, yes. Ultimately, you would want to be connected to both all the time. Are we? No. Is it normal? Yes. And that's okay. We'll have moments where we're just human. Sometimes we'll have moments where we're like, wow, I'm riding high. Like I was just spirit. But we want to make sure that we're always connected to both as much as humanly possible. Okay. So I wanted to get those out there for you guys to know. And when you're ready to actually embody that process and do what it takes to allow yourself to say, okay, what is that form of expression? How do I like to connect to spirit? How do I like to move my body? How, you know, what are the steps, or how does it feel in my body when I am being fluid with my emotional body? That's when you get into beyond balance. And that's when you get into my 6-month private coaching. So who is next? I don't know, Haley or Courtney, if you guys want to go next. We'll ask you the same 3 questions and then we'll wrap it up in a little bit. And you guys can just unmute your mics. Unless
Yes,
you don't want
I
to share.
will go. I will
Okay.
go.
Perfect. Hi, Haley.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Better actually.
Good, good, good. So any questions that you have for me right off the bat, or do you just want to paint the vision?
So I do have a couple questions. It was
Yeah.
one was I've been like doing a lot of, I guess, shadow work, as you'd call it. And
Yeah.
a lot of them lately have been coming up like without asking and in explosive ways.
Yeah.
And so some of them I'm realizing were like completely out of my control. But
Mm-hmm.
so, like, for example, I have like dyslexia and ADHD. And with dyslexia, I never realized how much it controlled my life or was hindering, or like you just hear, oh, people mix up numbers. No, I mix up more than that. Like what people are telling me, I interpret it different. Like I just mix it up. And it really dawned on me when I was building desks for each family member in my house. So I'm building like 3 desks, and I realized started building them backwards. And I was just like,
Okay.
wow, like how much of, things that are out of my control, how do I give myself that like self-love and give grace? Because at the end of the day, I'm just like, wow, I hate my brain sometimes. Or like, then I get in that negative self-talk and realizing, wow, how much did that really impact my life without knowing it? And I guess just finding that grace outside of my control.
Mm-hmm. I feel like, because this wasn't necessarily a question, but I also heard the energy behind it, and this is the response that I'm choosing. There is a uniqueness to how your brain works, which means that you will never think the same as anybody else on this earth, and that is a gift. And I know that it can be like so easy for me to sit here and not go through your lived experience and be some sort of spiritual person on the internet and be like, oh, everything that you're worrying about, just think of it positively. Like, no, but at the same time, like, our shadows are there for a reason, and they are here to help us grow. We just are learning to integrate them. And so the thing is balance, right? I'm all about balance. So if we have these shadows and if we have this darkness and it is like not, if it's overtaking some aspects of our life, then it's out of balance. That darkness is growing more than the light that we have, but it can easily turn into the light. We just have to be able to go through that fusion process and that integration process. So I can understand from your lived experience that when you were, for example, building those desks and you're like, I've just wasted my time. This is incredibly frustrating. Maybe my kids really need this or my family members really need this. I hate screw driving or I hate getting out the power tools. Like it could be all these things, but what can it also be at the same time? Because there is nothing in this world that is just one thing and one thing only. It's always on a spectrum. It's always a couple different things at the same time. So if there was another side of the coin, what would that side of the coin look like? You know what? Like this was a taxing process for me emotionally and physically. However, I now know how to build desks. Like, and now through this process, like every single time that someone uses one of these desks, I'm be like, I made that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I can go through it with confidence and I can go through it saying like, I, don't think the same way as everybody else. And this took me very long and I still did it. And just allow yourself to be like easy on yourself in those ways of the frustration. It's not going to happen when you're frustrated. And it's not to say like, oh, the second that you're frustrated, just think of it positively and feel good immediately as soon as you can. That's not normal. That's not healthy. That is bypassing. That's toxic positivity. And I don't preach that. However, I do preach, let yourself feel the emotion, let yourself feel the frustration, go punch it out into a pillow, go like scream into the abyss if you need to, go grounding, go stomp your feet, go get into your body, move that emotion out of your body because that emotion wants to be heard in that moment, right? And also, too, we have to remember when we're releasing something, we're creating space for something else to take its space. But what I am perceiving right now is we have these shadows, it has an emotional trigger. We either let that emotional trigger ruin our whole entire day, or maybe we process it and we release it, but now we're not infusing something else in its place, and then it's going to fill back up with the same thing. And I feel like that could be the reason why those shadows keep getting more and more and more and more and more, because you may feel like you are releasing, but it also is sounding a little tiny bit perhaps like we've fallen in an accidental healing trap where I was doing shadow work and I was like intentional with it. And now the shadows are just coming and I'm like, stay in the fucking box. Like, don't come out. Like, I wasn't ready for you yet. You're coming out in different areas in different ways. So give yourself the grace when those emotions come. Know that they are temporary and infuse something else in that process. So for as shitty of a time that you have, let's say it took you like 6 hours to make those desks, do something and give yourself maybe an hour or 2 hours, or say, you know what, tomorrow for 6 hours tomorrow, I'm going to do something else that's like really good. And it doesn't have to be the same thing. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to meditate for 6 hours or dance for 6 hours. It could be, I'm going to say 2 hours to do this, 1 hour to do this, 2 hours to do this, and another hour to do this. And say, I'm going to fill my own cup. I released it. I released the frustration. It's no longer activated. Because the thing is about those emotions, you can't get from here to there, you know? From frustrated to happy, or from angry to like celebrating and joyful. You can't get from there to there within a moment's notice. So ride that wave and then soothe yourself. Give yourself what you need. And then from there, it'll be easier for you to be like, okay, now I can have a better perspective. I sat and thought about how this one thing triggered me for this amount of time. Let me sit and at least think about all these ways that it helped me improve. Now I feel like a carpenter. I'm a fucking carpenter girl. Like, like anything. And that's just me. That's my sense of humor. That's what I would be telling myself. It may not sound like that in Haley's brain, but that is a process that will kind of help you shift, because it has to be an activated shift. Since you had activated so much of the shadow, it's going to be like, oh yeah, more of that, more of that, more of that. Your external reality is like, more of that, more of that, more of that. We didn't close it. So what I say to, and I know that we have to get to the rest of your stuff, but when we talk about healing and that gap, I always refer back to this analogy of having that metaphor. When we're riding our bike, we fall down, we scrape our knee. We scrape our knee. Now there's a hole. It's bloody. It's full of rocks. It's full of gravel. It's full of dirt. So that's the shadow, right? That's us activating that. Then we'll take out the rocks. We'll take out the dirt, so on and so forth. We don't just leave it like that. So if we do, more infection, bacteria can get in there. What we do from there is we clean it out, make sure that everything's good, no trace left, and then we infuse it with like medication or antibacterial soap or medicine, gauze, neosporin, and then we seal it with a Band-Aid too. So something that is quick that you can do in those moments is literally process the emotion, and from there, use one of the elements to cleanse yourself. And then from there, you can do something fun when you have the time, something to infuse.
Okay. I guess this kind of goes into what my vision is. So my vision is to obviously work off of intuition more and things like that. But I also have a block. So I guess a question on, there's been times where I've been like, so like, this is going to happen. Like my intuition is telling me everything.
Yeah.
And then it didn't come out like, and I know that that's kind of, like it can't be exact, but I mean, it's like, whoa, like blindsided, completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, is there like a way for like if you're not tapped into meditating and you're not like really involved like you were going through, is there a way for like a like false intuition to kind of pop through? Because it's like, hey, like I don't know how to describe that, but it's just like I've been so deep rooted in something and then it's just gone, and then that like blocks me from manifesting more, because I'm like, okay, I have been in that energy before, I have been this, that, I've learned about this and that, but then like I can't go through with the like, okay, I remember last time I tried that, it didn't work. And I even tried it a different way when I did it the third way, and so on. And so like I'm not doing the same thing, even though I have the same end goal, but I'm not. And so like that is a part of my vision, is like, how do I get to that end goal while I'm getting these like intuition bumps that I'm just like, is that even where I'm supposed to go to get there? Like, overthinking for sure, but
For sure.
like I'm dreaming big enough, but I'm not trusting myself to get to that dream because I've never had it before, or like
Yeah.
that success, that belief, proof.
Yeah. So it's you almost kind of answered a question like a little bit there at the end where you're like, I don't know, something's blocking me. And then you're like, self-trust. And so like kind of came, so you almost answered it a little bit. But what I would say there is that you could perhaps have been getting caught up a little bit too much in the how and not enough in the why. And also, what I'm hearing is we didn't fully let go. We didn't fully have that moment of non attachment. And so it was like, I'm feeling good. I'm having these intuitions. It's coming, baby. Can't wait. It's waiting around the corner. You're like, wait, where'd it go? You know, because we got too attached to it. So, like, in the moments where it's coming and you're feeling good, cruise that feeling and let it feel good for as long as possible. Why? Because that's why we were wanting the manifestation in the first place. So there could also be some weird little tripped up energy happening where your intuition is making you feel good and you're like, I'm feeling good, like I'm on cloud nine, this is how it's supposed to be. And then you were all internal, all internal, all internal. Something happened external and now you're external. Wait, where is it? You know? And then from there, you're like, well, that's evidence that I'm not this. That's evidence that I can't have that. So when you're cruising and flying high, stay there. And you can anticipate that that manifestation will already come to you because your guides have told you, la, 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 it's going to drop in at a good moment, la, 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 it's going to come as it is, la, 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 and move about your day. You don't have to focus on it anymore. If your intuition's telling you, hey, it's coming, say, okay, bet. Thanks, bestie. Same thing like when you get something mailed to you, right? Online shipping. Now Amazon has made it where it's like overnight and quick as hell. But in those times, you know, you don't really say like, I'm not going to trust Amazon. You're like, I trust Amazon. I bought it. It's going to happen. Things are moving. Things are in order. And then you have those little, you know, checkpoints from Amazon, like, oh, it's now moved from the shipping facility into the actual bus. And you're like, all right. And those are your moments of intuition. And it gives you an estimated time too. It literally says it'll come between 7 a.m. and 12 p.m. But you don't start at 6:59 and say, where the fuck is it? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like there could have been perhaps a little bit of that going on. If you already know it's on its way, you already know that it's coming, you can shift your focus to something else as well and allow that high vibe of what you're feeling to trickle into all the other areas of your life. So we don't want to like oversaturate our energy on one thing. And that could be also used in a metaphor of like a garden. If you have this garden and you're working on the rose bushes and you know it's going to come into fruition, you don't want to overwater it. You don't want to like pull too much at the roots anymore. It's already been aerated. You can then move your attention to the orange tree. You can then move your attention to the strawberry bush. So that is maybe a way to kind of help you. So we're not hyper fixating on it. If a manifestation does come to you and it's not at all what you wanted, or if it was a halfway done, like a half-baked manifestation, figure out energetically in that process of from the crown to the root where things could have gone a little crazy. Because whatever you experience as that manifestation, like you can have okay, so many metaphors, but life is literally a metaphor. You could be baking a cake and have all those ingredients just right and do everything that you needed to do. And then you preheated the oven, you popped it in, it took the amount of time, it's out and it's deflated and it's gross. And it's like, oh, like I didn't do like the right temperature on this. And so I'll just do it again. Right? We don't say, screw this cake, I'm never baking again. Like all the evidence has shown that I'm the worst baker in the world. Like, no, you're actually an excellent manifester.
I did that with sourdough.
Yeah. And sourdough I heard is hard. Sourdough I heard is really hard. But like you're an excellent manifester and you're so excellent that you even manifested something that you don't want because that is exactly where your energy was. That's how excellent of a manifester you are. You know?
I love that. Yeah.
So what's part of your vision?
My vision is definitely like quantum leaping stuff. I feel like I've been pretty the company that I kind of like travel with and do things, they always say knowledge, what is it? Ignorance on fire is better than knowledge on ice. And so I've just been like doing a lot of that waiting on the ice thing. And so my vision is to like, I hate saying this because it's been my block, but like making other people uncomfortable around me to get to where I need to go. And so that's a really big vision. I have like really big like humanitarian goals that I'd like to get to. And there's a job that like working at my kid's school that I've been trying to like manifest and get and things. And so once that's kind of set to place, which I'm like, why isn't it working the way I want? I need it now, like that. And so there's that. But yeah, it's really just, I guess, really showing up as my higher self and like actually taking action on things that I give advice for people about. Like I'm always that person that's like, oh, this would be a good idea off of my intuition, but then I don't trust my own intuition for myself for some reason. But then I like hear things from other people. And I'm like, oh, okay, like that makes sense. So I guess just really tapping into my true authentic self. And I guess what areas would need the most improvement would definitely be like Lawrence with the emotions. Like I have mood swings from some health reason or mental health reasons, and I know they happen, and it's hard to like get past them and like do it differently because it's just like I can't control a lot of things in my life, it seems. And so there's anxiety behind that and all the things. But I think diet, exercise, and not being so dependent on energies around me. Like if my kid was just screaming in the background, like that affects me because being an empath and things, it's like really hard to see someone else struggle and then not take it on as your own. Or like my husband's dealing with like substance recovery of alcohol and things, and so being like, wow, our whole life was on pause because you decided to do this, and then there's that anger around it. And so just really detaching myself from other people. And it's so funny because we're cleaning out my garage finally, Melody, you know the garage story. And I read, and it's funny because it's the author's name is Melody, but it's The Codependent No More. And so I'm like, it's a whole book about how not, and I own like 3 copies of it, not being dependent on people's energies and being able to be okay uh with doing your own thing. And so I was like, maybe I need to read this book. My biggest setbacks would probably be, it's almost like I have, and I heard this term the other day from my friends, like a failure to thrive. Like it's really weird. And I sound like really immature for saying that because that's like what they say about children and babies, like, oh, they're failure to thrive when they're going through medical problems. But like, that's like what I feel like. Like I've identified myself as this person with mental health issues that I can't tap into my highest self all the time. So how am I here to help other people? So stop, I guess, staying in my like comfort zone. Like because I stay in my safety space too much. Really, I feel like when I put myself out there, I make others uncomfortable. And that does come from root cause from childhood that I figured out. So it's really like being, I guess, okay with making people uncomfortable, but I also realize that's my biggest setback. And how am I getting in my own way is definitely just not listening to what I need to know, like what I know I need to do, like different diet, work out. I feel like I can't work out because my, diet isn't healthy enough to sustain my bones and protein and things like that. So I procrastinate a lot. And every day is, I mean, with kids make it really unpredictable. And so when I depend on their energies, I'm like, I was going to go live or something, but now my energy is just ruined. And so I don't want to show up now. And those are things, again, out of my control. Yeah, so those are the kinds of things that are definitely costing me a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing all of that. I heard it. That was a time where I feel like it was good for you to kind of get off your chest. I can tell that all of these things have been on your mind forever and a day. And so my response may be a little bit different for yours than it
I
has
also
been
have a
for yours.
therapist, so like I've almost feel like I'm an elevator pitch with my
Yeah,
therapist of
yeah, right. Like you
similar
just know
things.
what to
Yeah,
say. Like it's right there.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I will say that without even having to tap into your energy, reading your body language, hearing how you're saying things, um, it's important for you, I would say, to tap into the element of water, water healing, okay? Water medicine, good, positive, healthy, clear waters. I am sensing just without really tapping into your energy, there's like a I'm trying to find an appropriate way to say this. Just kind of feels like there's a heaviness, there's a density, there's like a lower, thing. And it almost just reminds me of kind of like the shadows that you were talking about, but almost it's becoming to be a little bit more of an embodied experience. I can tell that even when we're talking about something like self-improvement, even that almost I feel like can seem like a chore to you, or something that is just like, I gotta do it. I have to do this, and I do have to do this, and I do have to do this. And then it's like now I do feel like we're getting lost in the why again. It's like, okay, the why is this. Like your anchor right now is an anchor that I think is anchoring you into the past. Like I want to run away from this. I don't want to experience this. I don't want this. I know that this has happened because I have, these mental diagnoses. I know that this happened because I am in a relationship with this. I know that this because I have these. And so I feel like so much of it is like you're trying to take like all the weight of your life and move it forward with you. And you're like, it's too fucking heavy. And every single time I try to do something, something gets in the way. And that is kind of already showing you like if it there are times in healing, yes, where it feels very low or dark or heavy, but they shouldn't be lasting throughout the whole entire healing process. Healing is also fun and liberating. And not that you don't have moments where you could make it fun, but right now there are so many things on your plate that you can't even lift up the plate. You can't even, it's too much. So for one, I know that the water element is calling. Um, and I think I will probably send you like a private message with a different little like game plan for you on how to use the water element. If you haven't been cleansing or protecting your energy, like screw the to-do list, like make sure that's like a thing. Like every single day, grounding my energy, every single day, doing a smoke cleanse, every single day, tapping into the element of water and allowing the elements to do what they need to do so that you can do what you need to do instead of you taking it all on by yourself. From there, you should have a little bit more mental freedom. From there, you shouldn't really have to feel too much of the weight anymore, or at least the weight now feels like something that's more manageable. And when I was referencing you taking the whole entire weight and baggage of your life and moving it to where you want to go, it could really just be like, you know what? All of that has existed. All of that has manifested. That's all right. Okay. Like we've normalized that. That's programmed into the body. But I'm still gonna look over here to like this North Star, this star that feels lighter, this star that feels brighter, this version of me that I know is within me. It's like freedom, I think, should be like your mantra for like 2025. I feel like when you were speaking, I saw so many like spider webs, like cocooning you, and it was all like a self-made thing. And so, yes, you are experiencing these external factors that are prohibiting you from doing certain things or bringing challenges into your life. The more that we point at them, the more that we look at them, the more that we interact with them, the more webs come. And so it's no longer a point of, let me pick out every single thing that I have to like manage or heal or deal with or make better. But like you got to use that internal energy a lot more than I think that you have been. It's time to kind of find that North Star within you and let that shine and let that be bright. And it sounds so like woo woo spiritual, okay. But in reality, I think that your brain has become so accustomed to using your external reality as a marker of your success and progress and freedom rather than you using yourself as that marker of freedom. And I don't know if you have felt that in a long time and you're just waiting for like because you also said the word waiting. And so if you feel like you're waiting for something to save you, or waiting for you to have the proper diet so you could work out, or waiting for you to like, excel in your career, or waiting for your partner to be a certain way before you can be a certain way, like you're asking the universe for permission to exist and to be free when you can give yourself that kind of freedom. So I know that that may sound a little bit like fluffy or too much of like a concept rather than tangibles, but like right now we're doing the whole external reality and then I can judge my life, external reality, and then I can have an emotion, external reality, and this is what I think of it, instead of like, you know what, let me just like literally tap out. Like if you had a moment to actually tap out, like kids are in a space where you're distraction free, everyone's like taken care of, they're good, they're sleeping, whatever, and you just had time to say, how high vibe can I get right now? I have 30 minutes. I have an hour. How high vibe can I get right now? And start thinking of those things that make you feel high vibe. Start feeling those emotions of like, this is where I want to be, and let that illuminate you instead of have everything else consume you. I think that you just kind of like need to eat a little bit more of your own juicy goodness, good vibe energy. And I don't know if you've had the proper opportunity or just even direction to like navigate that. So like sit, bask in it, do your little cleanse, sit and say, how high vibe can I get? Haven't you like ever been in like the worst part of your life, but still watched like a TikTok video and it was funny and then you laughed your ass off? Like two different things can exist at the same time. So like if that is the metaphor that works for you, let it. Try to do that. I would say what I really want to tell you is try to do that little process of like energy cleansing yourself and then like tapping in for 30 minutes, an hour, and just be like Haley again and just be you and free again internally every single day for the next 21 days and see how that changes your life, because it takes 21 days to build a habit. And if you can do that for 21
I
days,
literally
everything
listened
else
to
for
that
21 days.
song this morning by Sarah Evans. I was
Oh yeah.
like, wow.
Synchronicities. So
Yeah.
that's what I think for you. And I think that from there, the self-healing game plan will tweak a little bit. Because even when you were painting your vision, it was still coming in with some stuff that you're like, but I want to clear this and I want to clear that. And I'm like, the vision should just be the vision. But if we can't see
Yeah.
that vision or create it just clear yet, like we have to start from within. And I feel like that can help you. So we could definitely work on that a little bit more, but I'll send you kind of like a little routine or ritual that you can do with the water at least to help with that process. Because I feel like once you kind of get out of your own encasing, then we can talk about moving forward in the action steps. But right now, it's got to just start numero uno, which is you.
Awesome. And hopefully I get this job because then I'll be able to probably afford more mentorship from you. So that will be great.
We're all co-creating and manifesting it with you.
Oh, thank you. I need all the good things.
Absolutely. We got you covered in that way. So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all that, because I know it's not only going to help you, it's going to help so many other people who are tuning into this in the replay afterwards, and even all of us who are here right now. It truly does help. So you got it, girl.
I'm excited to hear Courtney.
For sure. For sure. So Courtney, you are next, my love, and then we will wrap it up. There's no rush. We're all still here. So at least I'll be here for you.
Okay. I am wearing my literal mommy hat, so I may get distracted a couple times, but that's okay. Yeah. I'm literally a pro at it. So I have a couple of different ways that I've wrote out my fifth vision here. I've redone this like 5 times. Like since the first time that we did this in the first one. But specifically, I want to continue to, and I want to just hold that habit because I don't want to fall off the track. So I have it as I'm going to wake up every day balanced, full of passion, clarity on my steps. And then if I'm not clear on my steps, I don't let that sway me so hard. And I just let myself be. And then I will go into the action steps that I can take, which are 30 minutes a day for my passion projects, writing, grounding with Reiki symbols, and my movement. So if I don't know my steps for, let's say it's my business or whatever, then I can immediately go into those other things and it doesn't shake like my mindset about like, oh my goodness, then why am I even doing anything? Because that's where I used to be.
Mhm.
Working with my dream clients, I am manifesting that. I specifically want to have the mindset of being simply paid for my existence, paid for my experiences and my expression, and feeling safe enough and to do that authentically. And I want to be very confident when I'm doing that, because I think in the way my friend over here, Haley, her mind works a lot differently. My expression, I feel like, is kind of like very a little bit of everything. So I want that to be so free flowing, and I want to have this space of like no judgment, because I'm not seeking anyone's validation. Okay. Sorry, one of my kids turned the light out. And then just like, and me not judging myself or guessing if somebody else is going to even appreciate it in general. So I want to get very confident and very strong in that. I want to not give a flying flu fluff flaw about who cares about what I'm doing, and know that I appreciate this, because I would have loved to see this at a part of my own journey. And I want to get very, very, very strong in that. So that's a big part of my vision. I do want to like get deeper into like some of those writing things. Those are part of this actual vision that I would go into during those action steps that I talked about. But then there's a lot of things that I'm manifesting that are tangible. No, thank you. Thank you. Like I want to buy a home this year, and I'm going to buy a home this year. So there's a lot of things that I'm calling in. And by the way, literally last night was perfect. Was perfect.
Okay. Good.
I had a whole moment with myself, and you said that the science part of like, hold on a moment and then I can answer you. As soon as I'm done with my call. You have to wait just a minute. Thank you. And then, oh rats, where was I? Oh, I got very triggered and scared about something financially. And then I was like, oh my goodness, I was just calling in more abundance. Let me like think about this for just a second before I start panicking and like turning into that mommy mode. Like I need to figure out this, this, and this. I can do this. I can move this around, whatever. I had a vision with my inner child, and she was literally like, oh my goodness, are we going to be like reprimanded? Are we going to get in trouble? And there was a lot of fear for making a mistake. And I was just like, but like, I reparented myself in that moment. What if we made a mistake, and then what if it was literally not a big deal? And so I loved that. That feeling, that emotion, and that trigger was gone within like 7-ish minutes. It was less than 10. And then I did my thing. I was expressing, I grounded, everything was fine. And then I dove into my work feeling really good. And I was actually very proud of that, even though I still didn't have the answer. I still didn't know if it was actually going to be okay. And then it was fine. I got what I needed.
I love that. I love that. And I really appreciate how you took the time to like text me in that moment, like, hello. And you're like, is this what we were just talking about? And like, is this recurring? And I was like, it could be, like, it really could. And I was like, but the way I see it, and like the blessing of being able to like communicate with someone else in that moment is that they're unbiased in it. So like I obviously was not freaking out with you, so I would be able to help you like see like, okay, is there a bigger picture of this? Is there a different way that we can reframe this? Weren't we just doing something for financial blocks for you, and then now we're experiencing a massive trigger? Like, those synchronicities don't just happen to happen. And I'm glad that it was able to be a time where you're like, I'm reflecting, I'm doing this, I'm taking my tools, I'm taking my resources, I'm doing the practices that I know, because that's the thing, like, the practices and the tools that I teach and preach, I give them to you so that you all can do them to prevent certain like emotions and things from getting out of control. But then when they do, things hit the fan, they do, you are like, okay, well, I already know how to do this practice. I already know how to do this thing. Yes, the stakes are higher, but that means I can lean into my tools more. And that I think is just like so important of the process, and how you like made that connection super fast, and you didn't allow yourself to say like, well, I'm not going to text, or I'm not going to reach out. I'm just going to like suffer, like I'm just going to go back to like who I was. And you said, I'm not going to.
Literally just like a year ago, I would have been like, there's no way I'm reaching out to her. She's busy. She's like, she has her own life. She's doing her own thing. There's no way that I would have did that, because then I would have been like guilty. And then that's literally so silly though, now that I know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, not all mentors are that way either. So that is like an understandable kind of like fear, but it's good that we've already had that kind of connection. We're like, no, you're safe. Like, we're good. Like, you got a question, you answer it. And like, that's exactly why these communities, at least my communities, exist for moments like that. So, and also too, I know that we're kind of like segueing a little bit, but there was someone who reached out and had a question in our community. And I know that I'm going to answer them, but if any of you two decided to like read what they had to say because they were going through something emotionally, if you guys had any input, then feel free to go ahead and provide some input for our community member too. But for you, Courtney, with everything that you said, I'm not sure if you went over any of the setbacks that you could perceive yourself having currently.
So my setback. Which question was that?
3.
Am I asking the right question? 3. Here we are. Yes. I'm a scaredy cat. So what I did note when I redid this step was that my third eye like lit up, which was like, we just had that session and my third eye was definitely like very present during that session.
Yeah.
This specific thing about manifesting what I am creating here, it does tend to, I have this like resistance with it that I'm a little bit fearful of what the impact could mean like for my parents.
Okay.
Because of those experiences. It's not just my existence. It involves things that, happened at my home in their, vicinity, whatever. And so that is holding me back a little bit. I'm going to be honest, because I'm like, I don't want to also, I guess, avoidance, because I really just don't want to deal with their response.
Yeah.
Like, shall I make anything public? And I would never make anything public in a like a way of harming or making someone purposely look bad that was like not true. But I do feel like there's so much value in what I need to talk about. And it's literally screaming at me. The universe will not shut up.
Yeah.
Like it's getting louder. It's getting louder. We're still here. This dream is still here. And now you have all of the experiences that are behind you that need to be talked about. They need to be expressed through still.
Yeah. So that is something that a lot of healers in general in business have to come to. It's like a pivotal moment in the road, but not only healers, a lot of other business people too, who have a solution, because it usually comes from a perceived problem. And so one, obviously you had already touched on it, being mindful to like frame it delicately and carefully, but also knowing that you can go general when it needs to be general. And so maybe only closer proximity clients can have some more specific things where it's not necessarily public where you can Google search it and find it, or it's on your TikTok page and someone can easily find it. But it's more of like that conversation that you have one-on-one with a client who you feel needs to benefit off of that story, or that you're trying to create a connection or touch point with. So you can always go a little bit general. You also don't have to say, if you don't feel like it's necessary, certain details that relate to a specific parent. So you're like, okay, it could have been mom, but you say one of my parents. It could have been daddy. You could have said, parents in general as a unit. You could also just keep relaying it back into the lens of your own eyes of how you perceived it when you were that age. And so, that is a tricky one too. I've had to deal with it. And you won't you could still go through all my TikToks or all my everythings, and you probably won't hear anything that I have to say that really bashes or talks about my mom in specific. And I say my mom because my dad wasn't really in the picture. So you don't really hear me say that, but almost every kind of teaching that I have stems from the relationship that I had with my mom, or stems from that childhood lived experience. And so you can find a way to still have the message come through without having to jeopardize anybody's public perception. And that's really important too, especially when you continue on in this journey. And then there's something that happens with maybe your husband, or there's something that happens with one of your children. And you still want to express that too, or a friend or anything like that. Because, there are some people that can come out of the woodwork and be like, me? Is this play about us? Are you talking about, and obviously you don't want to set the world on fire in that way, because that could be extremely triggering for both parties and all of those things. But you just understanding, okay, let me tell this story. What is the story that I want to tell? Let me tell it. Let me tell it. Let me tell it. And you just tell it to yourself over and over and over again. And you'll find when you're saying that story to yourself that you're editing things out in the process, or you have resistance in that process, and you get it to be a streamlined story where you're able to walk that audience member or community member or, client through that journey without having those skips and bumps in the road, right? Because there could be times too where, let's say you're just in the middle of a session with someone and you feel like sharing the story, you'll be in the middle of the story and be like, oh, I can't really say that. And you'll feel the resistance in that moment. And then you'll tweak it and edit it and revise it in that moment. And you just listened to your intuition, because your intuition was saying, oh, they don't need to hear that part. Or, oh, you don't really, it's not going to help them to know that part. So yeah, and me as well, just to kind of give you some sort of reference, I oftentimes talk about how I've had toxic relationships in my past, but I don't specifically say what I experienced in that toxic relationship, unless someone was like, I experienced a narcissistic abuse thing. And I'd be like, okay, so when it comes to narcissistic abuse, and I'll just talk about it how do you fucking know all these things, Mystique? And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you, but lived experience, those things where it's I've had multiple clients come to me with the same exact, and that's how it happens in healing a lot of times. The clients who
We
come
draw
to
in the people that have been through.
Yeah.
And that's why I know I have to talk about it. I know that I literally.
That's a throat thing too.
Yeah.
That you were saying with your throat chakra and everything, but revising the story and seeing and if you spill a little information, you spill a little hot tea, you'll wipe it up and it's fine, right? It's nothing too crazy. But if you did post something and you're having the heebie-jeebies about it, then you could take it down. You know what I'm saying? Not everything has to remain on the internet forever, if that's the case and you were feeling that way and you're having a bit of a regret for speaking up on something.
Okay. I love that. I did have a couple of other things. So my third eye lit up when I put this down. And then when I did my the second step, what area needs improvement, it has absolutely changed since the first one, because I was kind of doing some comparison. It's physical and mental for me right now. And I put that because I did actually have surges of energy. and I was bringing up step number 3 also. So when I was thinking about the expression, that was kind of like, I had just had this huge, it was almost like my solar plexus like lit up. It was like, does that make sense?
Yeah. So like your energy centers were having an activation while you were filling this out, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's a good like
And
dictator that you're listening to like what your body is saying. So when your solar plexus did that, what point were you at in the process?
I was specifically writing down what was holding me back, and wanting to be authentic, being
Yeah,
fearful of failure. I don't want to hurt my parents, but I want to be authentic is what I was writing.
for sure. I would say that authenticity, it is like a full body thing, but I would primarily, if I had to, I don't know if you can like technically, but if I had to correlate it to energy centers, it would be the sacral, the solar plexus, and the heart space for authenticity, for sure. So there's something there that could have been your inner child trying to let you know. Or just the way that, you know, it has impacted you altogether in your solar plexus, having those moments with your parents or your upbringing or anything like that. Understanding too that when you're fulfilling your life's purpose, a lot of that drive comes from your solar plexus. And so that is also activating. I feel like there could have been a couple different reasons
Yeah.
why that was super activated. But if it was like in a way where you were like, oh, like it felt expanding, it felt open, know that that is a good direction. If it felt like, oh, I have a pain, or now my stomach is like getting cramps, or like something like that would probably be an energy to be released. But I feel like that could have been like a sense of freedom in that instant when you're like, okay, I'm writing these things down, and then okay, talking about my childhood experiences, and your solar plexus is like, nah, like it's like, yes, hello.
Whoa.
Yeah, because it can be very healing. And the thing is, like with anything that you teach, you get better or you understand more about what it is that you're teaching when you're actually teaching it, right? And I feel like for you as an entrepreneur, you're getting into that kind of space right now where the stakes are higher, the levels are increasing, you're becoming more of who you actually are. We've already discussed plenty of times how different this Courtney is than the Courtney that we've, you know, had when we were just meeting. And so you have always been working on your solar plexus. And I know that solar plexus work is very important for the clients that you do, because empowerment and confidence is something that you want to help them with, and inner child healing. So everything that you're doing is having that common denominator of the solar plexus. So whatever it is that you create or how you move or where you decide to speak from, use that solar plexus energy, because that's just more bandwidth for you to then heal or, you know, project what it is that your mission is in this world.
That was wild. I also, not specifically during this, but I have had some of that a lot lately. Like randomly, I will be feeling like a tingling sensation, specifically in my left shoulder blade. Like I guess it's my heart chakra, I think. Like last night when I did that work with my inner child, that like lit up and was tingling, and I was like, oh, I'm not even tapped into Reiki right now. And so mind blowing for me.
Yeah.
The what is it costing me step was still, if I choose to procrastinate, if I choose to, which I'm not going to, I'm not going to keep holding myself. I'm just not, I literally can't. But if I were to, and if I were to not actively be taking these steps, it would still, the impact is the same than my first game plan. I would be risking not only my relationships here, my relationship with myself, but all of the people that are seeking me and those experiences to have that connection or whatever they're seeking, and what they find the value in the work that I'm doing. It would be causing all of that to be no bueno. I don't know.
Yeah.
It would be like that feels like a lot that would cost if I did not.
course, it's costing you your impact. It's costing you the potential influence or transformation that will be a ripple effect in the world. So it is large. And I can tell that you sense that gravity. Yeah. And you're like, I'm not gonna let it get to that point. That's too expensive. That's too high a cost for me. So I can tell that I don't even think is even a potential. But at the same time, we do have to have that awareness of it altogether, because if at any rate in your entrepreneur journey you get lost, that's your why. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'll cost me this, and my why is so strong in this that, like, I have to keep going, or I have to stay motivated, or I have to keep, clearing out these things to be better for, my clients and serve them in a way that I need to. And also what you said about the left. So if we're taking the physical body and like mapping it out a little bit, so the left is that maternal side. So it could have something to do with your mom, and then shoulder blades, heart space, yes, and just like the connection that you could have had from your mom. But also it reminds me of the past as well, because it's like in the back of your body. So something in relation there. We're talking about the shoulders. I know it's a little bit of communication, but I also believe that it has something to do with the work that we do. And I'll make sure to take a look back at my notes, because this is a part of my shamanic apprenticeship where we map out the body. And when the body is hurting or doing something weird in a certain area, it usually is correlating to something very, very specific. And so I'll take a look and see, because I know that the shoulder is a very specific placement for that. And I'll let you know.
Yes. And it was like a tingling sensation. It wasn't like an ow, and it wasn't like a soreness. It is like a kind of like when your hands feel sometimes when you're doing Reiki, but I was
just like
literally not tapped into Reiki at all. I was being mindful, but not tapped into anything. No smoke cleansing was going on, nothing. I'm just sitting there. So, but that does make sense to me because of the expression. I was holding inner child at that moment, the expression that she didn't have there, that she had never been exposed to, was that even if you're, messing up, it's okay. And like, we'll just fix it. I just was never, like, I never really had that, those things worded that way. So I think that that's probably why. What comes to my mind is that parent saying things like, life sucks and then you die, which is terrible, but that's like what I used to hear. That's what I used to
So you're just like reprogramming all of that, like all at the same time.
So I think that does make a lot of sense if that is it already seems to fit what I was.
Absolutely. I want to thank you too, Courtney, for sharing all of that, and honestly being like the catalyst for us having like a self-healing game plan, like 2.0, 3.0, whatever it is that we had here today. And then just for time's sake, because this is a very long one, so it's going to be very beneficial for everyone who's been here to rewatch it, but also for those who have not been here to see the replay of it. And I believe I'm going to put this as a part of my podcast as well. So you all being a part of this has helped immensely the collective as a whole. So just know that you sharing, you being intimate, you being vulnerable, you laying it all out, and even just activating yourself to go further, to heal, to be more balanced, is all something that everyone's going to benefit from all together. Again, not only for you two, but for anyone else who's listening to this, the resources that I do have available beyond this one live stream would be a closer proximity program or container from me. The best advice that I could give if you're looking to actually be held accountable is to have someone help you be accountable as well. Sometimes we cannot just take everything that's on our plate and do it ourselves. We are community-based people. We have that hive mind. So when you are absolutely ready and determined to make that long-lasting transformation in your life, without a doubt, Beyond Balance is a program that will help you get there. If you want something that is not only part self-paced, but also where you're going to have more activations, transmissions, and healing healings with me exclusively one-on-one, that's when you want to move into the 6-month private mentorship. The biggest difference between the both of those is that Beyond Balance is just something that you are able to reference as a resource and practice every single day for the next 4 weeks, because again, it takes about 21 days to form that habit. Why not add a couple more days and actually fulfill that whole entire month? And then from there, that is like your new base level. That is your new standard of lifestyle or existence. And you can tweak it as you see fit. But if you feel like you don't have the tools, or if you feel like your foundation in life is just a little bit shaky, that's going to be one of the best programs to have available in your pocket. And then moving on from that, if you're wanting more of that connection to me and wanting more of my time and energy to be able to tap in and see what's going on and help heal you from the inside out and the outside in, that's where I would suggest that the 6-month private mentorship is the best. Why 6 months? 6 months, you could do a lot of good stuff, and you can also do a lot of damage. So just make sure that you are taking that into consideration, where it's like, okay, a longer container for my healing is only going to give me longer benefits or results that are longer lasting. And so keep that in mind when you're thinking about what kind of container to put yourself in. And if there's any questions that you have about working with me in closer proximity, or what kind of program is the best for you, you just let me know. So everyone, thank you so much for showing up to this live stream. If you have any questions, go to the community tab in our free community and have the Ask Mystique as a part of your day. If you feel like sharing with us your whole entire self-healing game plan, just so that we can help you revise it or tweak it, or if you just feel like having it as a demo for someone else to reference and say, oh, okay, like that's what you're doing. Okay, I can do something, in my own way, then you can use the community tab feature for that as well. But love you guys so much. Thank you for joining in on this live stream, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.